It's a good angle.
And we made it
And
with the good
we
angle.
made it. Okay, the sound is perfect. Huh? Everything goes well.
Thing
Right.
is, go
So I
on
don't
as
just
planned.
talk to
I
myself.
will let you know if situation
Oh,
arises.
okay. Okay. So, okay, another TROM-Cast, and this time is about a very popular subject here, is this coronavirus outbreak. And before we start, anyone can join. You can go on tromsite.com/live and you can join us, or you can watch us on YouTube and Facebook. And yeah, I was thinking this time before we start the cast about this subject to just take 5 minutes and explain a bit what's up with this thing, because even like our Trump created news got a bit like invaded, to use this kind of word, like almost like an outbreak of news about this pandemic, this
Haha.
spreading of this virus. Yeah, so I've read so much about the thing that I'm a bit like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. I think everybody is. So they may say,
Mm.
oh, why the fuck do you make a Trumpcast about this? Because everybody's talking. But we, on top of explaining, a few things about from everything that we know about this situation, we are going to talk a bit in this kind of Trump context, like why this trade-based society kind of fucked things up and made it more difficult to deal with this virus, or why it started in the first place, why it spreads, and how we could deal in a better way, maybe if we live in a sane society. Okay, so yeah, that's the thing is in China it started. They think it's a virus that came from bats. They say because people there eat all kinds of animals, but yeah, I'm not that sure if it comes from bats. And a few weeks ago, I was like, well, okay, this is it's bad, but it's like we are in Europe. I don't think this is. I mean, the borders are so strict. I'm not sure that the virus has the permission, the visa, to go into Europe. Apparently, they don't quite care. So it's this little virus. It's interesting because viruses are just like little creatures, little like molecular things that we don't even know they're alive or dead. And I think people can create some conspiracy theories. I was thinking these days maybe some alien species invents these fucking things and then put them on planet Earth to like see how the fuck humans are coping with them. Because we don't know, it's just what the fuck is this shit? So it spreads from humans to humans, and because of their shapes, it attaches to your insides, and then makes your organs malfunction. This particular virus attaches to your lungs, the inner sides of your lungs. And what it does is like it kind of destroys the insides of your lungs, and your immune system reacts, and then it kind of creates inflammation and so forth. And because the linings are fucked up, then you get a bacterial infection that's called pneumonia. You may have heard this. Some people are going to get into like this malfunction of the lungs. So if you cannot hold those people alive for longer to get them treatments, then they're going to get fucked. So this virus is like 2 or 3 times more infectious than an influenza, for example. It's between 0.2 to 3.4% deadly in like the cases that get this. So influenza is 0.1%, but it's hard to tell right now. So that's what is happening. Everybody gets infected because it's easily transmittable through saliva, basically. Or if someone sneezes or someone coughs, and you can get the virus. It stays on surfaces on some up until like 3 days, like stainless steel or plastic, and a few hours in the air. So that's how it spread all around the world because people travel, and now it's going to be like, if we look at the latest stats, I think it's like 240,000 infected and around 10,000 deaths. So it's increasing like more and more. And I live in Europe, so most of us here are in Europe, except the immigrant Cody here. So he thinks he's fine.
Yeah, I got that Canadian citizenship.
Here, when you go to like, I live in Spain, so you go to the groceries, buy groceries. They give you gloves, and like not many people are around because kind of officially you are not allowed to go out unless you go buy stuff or go to work, because that's how the society works. You have to go to work. Yeah. So how is it? Just let's get a bit of like how is it in Denmark, for example? Because Seb and Sophia are from Denmark. Is it that bad in terms of like restrictions and so forth?
Yeah, I think that people, or the majority of people in Denmark, are panicking quite a lot and are therefore staying indoors. But overall, it's not at all as bad as in Italy or Spain or most other places. And there've only been like 3 deaths and a few or 6 deaths,
Yeah, but
and a
yeah.
few hundred cases. But you are still allowed to go outside, go to parks, go get food. But most businesses have closed down. So people are either working from at home or they're not working at all. Yeah.
Yeah, they're also restricting like public areas a little bit.
Yeah.
I think they said max 10 people together now.
Max
So
10
like they're
people.
trying in cafes and whatever else to kind of say only 10 people at a time and stuff like that. But
Cafes are
mostly,
open though?
some are, but a lot are not. I would say it's more mentally kind of, entrapped people are because they're really panicking. Everyone here, it's crazy.
So they're informing all the Danish people abroad to come home because they cannot secure their safety abroad. Yeah.
How is in Canada?
I guess you notice it in like the lack of traffic, I guess. So it's just out this morning, so you don't have like a lot of the school buses, like our schools and stuff, were shut down and whatever. So you're just kind of noticing that, but people, I don't think it's as bad as what's being described as in Denmark right now. The panic hasn't necessarily set in, or that the people who are we don't see them anymore.
Are people still catching Pokemons these days there?
There's at least one guy out there I know. He's a nutter and just ravenously hungry for the Pokemon.
Are you talking about yourself?
Shh, Sophie, it's a secret.
So what do you guys think about the situation? Do you think it's exaggerated? Do you think it's like a bad situation? What do you guys think?
Dima, you thought it was like exaggerated like just a few days ago. Did you change your mind now, or what do you think? Like,
no, I don't change my mind yet. I think it's very exaggerated because of the media and the way it works, and it's really hard to even avoid the information about coronavirus. For example, I go to website to read about the music, which specialize only in metal music, very narrow, and most of the news for the recent week was, this show is canceled because of the coronavirus. This show is canceled because of coronavirus. I go to website to cook something, and there's like, recipe for the disaster. The best canned food you can prepare during coronavirus. So it's
everyone is taking on the hype.
Whenever you go, you will find everything with coronavirus because that's the way our media works. As long as something happens, everyone pushing content with this coronavirus, and that's creates a lot of misinformation and creates a lot of panic. For example, I just been speaking with my sister, and she's living in UK, and she just said literally all the shelves in the huge supermarkets are empty. She showed me pictures. She said she couldn't buy food for like 3 days because it's already. She goes to shop every day, and there's like literally no food. There's some junk food, some chips, and some like fast drinks. That's it.
Sure.
And why it's happening? Because people are stressed so much, they're misinformed, and I suppose the news today, they should inform you, but rather they make a profit on the shocking content. And that's what happened. And I think it's not that we don't need to solve the coronavirus thing, and not that it's not a big deal, but it's way media propose it as a way like terrible than it's in reality, at least at the moment. And I think that's created a lot of problems. And also the way politics works, as the more people are concerned about some specific topic like coronavirus, the more media pushing the content like that, the more government forced to do something, even though they think it's maybe not yet necessary, because all their power also lies in the hands of popularity, So they tend to make like more popular decisions rather than maybe logical, and that's my point.
And in this case, I know I saw this. It's an interesting analogy with, let's say, it's a mosquito on a lake. Okay, and this mosquito duplicates. So it's like 2 mosquitoes tomorrow, 4 mosquitoes the other day. Let's say in 60 days, the entire lake is full of mosquitoes. When do you think is half full? The entire lake. When do you think is half full? And many people may mistake this. Is in the 59th day. So just a day before it gets. So that's how exponential growth works. And first is like very little things. And that's how happened to this virus in many countries, at least, like in Italy, for example. It's just a few cases, a few deaths, and then it kind of explodes. I was looking at yesterday at statistics, and if you look, it's so predictable, almost like if you look at is this site called World, like
Worldometer.
Worldmeters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you look like how it grows, like Italy grows in a week from a few thousand to like 40,000 plus. So in a sense, it's like it is the sense of urgency. Even this, I agree, media is going to every time it's doing this. But right now, it's such a like it grows so fast that you may think, okay, it's not a big problem. Like in Denmark, maybe like 7 deaths. It can grow in like 10 days to be like thousands of deaths. And that's what happened to Italy. And basically why so many people die in Italy, because right now Italy surpassed China in terms of deaths. So imagine that. China has 1.2 billion people, Italy 60 million. So Italy already has 3.5 thousand deaths. So it surpassed China. Why are so many people dying in Italy? Because their healthcare system got fucked, kind of collapsed. So that people who are sick, they cannot take care of them. So it kind of, the panic, although I agree that media all the time exaggerates, I think it's also, in a scientific sense, it's a panic in today's society, especially in Italy or even Spain, because the healthcare systems are collapsing. You cannot take care of so many people, and that's why you see so many deaths. So I also think it's quite of a tricky situation, because I used to say, I was thinking that, okay, it's not maybe that big of a deal, but if you look at how contagious it is, for example, and if you look at the fact that the healthcare systems collapse so quickly, it's quite interesting. Italy has one of the best healthcare, they say, out there, and it collapses so quickly. Then it's like, what the fuck? These people are not prepared. Just not prepared for this fucking thing,
because the thing is, with exponential growth, change happens extremely fast once it gets up to a certain point. And the mosquito analogy that Tiro was making, so say a pond gets covered in 100% in 60 days, so it's half covered in 59 days. And then at what point do you think it's covered with only 1%? Do you guys know?
One day is the same.
No, 1%.
1% of the lake.
30th day, I don't know. Or 40th.
It's like something like 53.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's
Okay,
exponential growth.
right.
So you won't notice, you only have a tiny percentage of whatever the hell it is that's growing with exponential growth. But for it to get out of hand, you won't notice it until it's already quite bad. So that's kind of what happened with Italy, is that, it all of a sudden got smashed. And then because of that, the problem is the healthcare system got smashed. So right now, yesterday they had almost 500 deaths in just one day from this virus. And if you think, if all hospitals get smashed, it's also a problem not even just for people that have this virus. It's a problem for anybody that might have to go to the hospital for any reason,
Because I remember last week, Johan was here. Johan, who translates our stuff in French, he came from France. He was here, and the next day he got a job, Friday basically, got a job in Barcelona, and we were talking about this, and it was nothing. It was few cases in Barcelona, for example. It was kind of nothing. He just hitchhiked there, and then the next day I talked to him, or 2 days after that, and he's like, okay, everything is shut down here because it's increased so much. The cases increased so much in Barcelona and in Catalonia overall, that now he's staying there. Everything is closed. He's at least he has a place to stay because he's a volunteer for a hostel there. But I don't know. I haven't heard from him in 2-3 days. I don't know what he's doing, or I don't know, because everything is
Maybe they sent him
closed.
back to France.
Quarantined.
Maybe.
Maybe he's quarantined with no internet.
So it
Yeah,
grows.
it blew
That's the
up
thing.
so fast. Yeah, because here, it was less than a week ago. He left on Saturday, And we're like, okay, like good luck hitchhiking, hope it's okay. And then it was like 2 days later, everything's shut, and then now everything's like quarantine. Now you can't even go outside unless it's to buy groceries or medicine. And
And an interesting fact when they say like, okay, lockdown, and you may say, I also think it's a bit more, it's a bit too much maybe, but it's like, here's the thing, the interesting thing, if they lock everything down in a country, they will not reduce the number of infections. That's interesting because I didn't think about that. So lockdown, the number of infections are not reduced really. The same amount of people will get infected, but they slow it down a bit. That's all they do. Because Italy locked down like a week ago or something or more. And they are skyrocketing in deaths and in cases. Yeah. So it's a bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting how in South Korea, for example, there's a lot of cases. It's the third highest, right? In terms
South
of
Korea?
cases? Yeah.
Not anymore. South
Not
Korea.
okay. Well, it was out up there for a while.
Fourth or fifth. I think Spain is the third now.
Yeah, great. But they didn't even close their borders even till today, I think, right?
Yeah, they only have some. It's also interesting to look, and we will look at this. Like, how come, for example, Germany has like 14,000 or something cases, but only like a few deaths. Like, how in the fucking world, or South Korea, the same, a few deaths. And they came up with different kinds of approaches to this entire situation. They didn't have to completely lock down. Do you know, guys, are you aware, like, for example, what South Korea, for example, did, or even maybe Germany too, not kind of be like just, let's lock down everything, Do you know what they did?
Yeah, I think I read the article briefly, and I think for one, they have many more hospital beds per capita, so a lot more than most other countries like the US or China and so forth. And then as well, they were cooperating with each other. I think they had an app where you could see who was infected where and when, so you could avoid the situation. And many volunteers also got involved in order to help diagnose people and help people in various ways. So a much more cooperative and creative approach, which is of course much better in preventing diseases. And I think Germany is the same thing. They have many more hospital beds, and I'm not entirely sure what they did, but yeah, I mean, it's a very low number. 44 deaths from 15,000 cases. So that's quite low.
Right.
Yeah, and not just hospital beds, but also maybe like employees or people, healthcare workers. Maybe they have many more as well.
It works very well when you get informed. For example, it's like South Korea was like immediately informing who has the virus where, and so that people know. But here, if no one knows, everything is like blind. Like everything, you're blind. You don't know. It's like everybody can have it, or no one. It's just, of course, it creates a kind of panic. You'll be much better, I would say, if you will get informed to be like, okay, so in this town, no one got infected, So we know that, or we know what to get away from, what kind of parts of your country and so forth. So that is really great. And they also invented this like drive-through testing. You had the symptoms, you don't go to the fucking hospital because that's a really bad idea. Take your car and go to this drive-through, and they take samples from you there, and they tell you, much better,
Yeah, and it's free and available. They did tons of tests.
Yeah, because US was like, first it was a problem in the US because like, okay, it costs money for people to get a test, and the capitalists there are like, okay, I think that's not a good idea. Let's make it free because like we are getting fucked if we don't make it free. So they kind of make it free now, but it's just stupid.
Yeah, because if you don't have free access or access to that healthcare, you won't even. It doesn't matter how many beds people have. You can have enough beds for everybody, but people can't afford to use the beds. So
yeah.
In some cases, it's a bit backwards.
I was also looking like that's, I think you also see this hysteria of like people buying shit, like tons of shit. I'm like, how come we see empty shelves in capitalism, right? Because it's like, if you will see that in like communist China, be like, of course it's communist China, But what about the capitalism? There should be like infinite supply of this fucking shit, and yet they couldn't cope. They just couldn't cope with the situation.
I think it's similar as you described with hospitals. It's just there's like too much of demand at that very short amount of time. So even here in Started, like last Friday, shelves were quite empty, not that bad. But when you come back again on Monday, everything is full. So just at relatively short time, huge masses of people go to the shops. And
yeah, that's what I want to say. Like the same way that maybe communist kind of whatever countries are not prepared maybe for such extremes. Capitalism doesn't do great either. Like they will lack resources. Like there are big super chain markets that have to impose restrictions. Like you are only allowed to buy like 3 like toilet paper rolls or whatever the fuck.
But that's probably not the shop's restrictions. Shop doesn't care whom to sell the toilet paper. This probably comes from government, no?
I don't know. Well,
like my sister said now they have this in UK. It's like you can buy only 2 packs of pasta or 2 packs of toilet paper, something like that.
Yeah, we have that.
I bought like 100 stacks before. And
right.
Awesome. Selling them.
That's another thing, right? Selling shit. I've seen that.
Price gouging.
People buying lots of them and then they resell them like 5 times.
That's your capitalism here.
Yeah, there it is.
That's not
Yeah.
But people get annoyed at that. How come they get annoyed at that? But not, for example, as whatever happens everywhere, like Amazon. I remember Amazon bought this, like, it was this Pampers company making Pampers for kids, to not shit themselves. Everywhere. And then they're like, I want to buy, and Pampers was like, no, we don't want to buy. And then Amazon lowered prices so low on their websites that they bankrupt the fucking company, and they do that all the time. And then they bought the company. But they do that all the time, in terms of when it's a crisis. What if when someone has cancer, and you put $100,000 price a month for a fucking drug, What about that? Don't get mad at those people. They are capitalists, they buy all of the toilet paper and then you cannot shit anymore unless you buy it from them, Don't get mad at that. That's how it is. Yeah.
It's the smart guys in the system.
Yeah, right.
But it's always like that. If there is like a problem, if there is a war, for somebody it's very tough times. For others, it's like amazing times, for getting money. So
and every
the same here.
Is an opportunity.
There you go.
Exactly. So
in this company, because if you think don't we have the resources to make this kind of intensive care units beds for most people that we need? What the fuck is that? But I've seen in Italy, for example, they don't have this kind of ventilators that need to keep people alive with those kind of ventilators, and this company wouldn't produce as many. And then some Italian people, I think scientists and doctors and work, they got pissed off and they remade that ventilator, made it open source kinda, and put $1 price on it, something like that. And then the company now is thinking to sue them. They're dragging them into court because what do your design is too similar to ours, So look what's happening in terms of crisis,
I think for me personally, what disturbs me the most about the current situation with the coronavirus is the fact that we have a common enemy in a way globally right now, which is this coronavirus. Many nations see it as such and so forth, but they're acting as tribes and so forth. But the most disturbing thing is that we know that we have all these other issues like homelessness, like poverty, like bad sanitation, all these other different things. People don't have enough money and stuff. But these things seem to be just tied into the structure and only affecting maybe the poorer individuals. And hence there is no global state of crisis where all the nations are trying, or a government is trying to now, let's fix this homeless problem, or let's all use our resources together to end poverty, or to maybe restructure certain things so people have cheaper accommodation and cheaper food and all those things. But yeah, it's maybe because now this coronavirus can affect anybody, not just the poor, and it also is maybe a bit inspiring to see how we could work together and to solve an issue like the coronavirus, but our efforts could be directed towards any issue, of course at poor trade, but whatever else it might be, specifically like homelessness and this and that.
Yeah, imagine they tracked, every single homeless person like they do with the virus. There's this
Right.
many homeless people here, this many homeless people there. Every person that's starving or doesn't have clean water to drink.
Absolutely,
Then
yeah.
then they can create this map and be like, oh my God, we need to fix this problem. But
Absolutely.
yeah, because it's so like ingrained in us that that's just normal as a normal side effect of this system. People just accept it and they don't treat it as an emergency.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It should be.
Yeah, I agree. I think during this time, the feeling that I've been having the most, I've just been really pissed off, to be honest. Because I talk to people and I talk to my parents like all the time, especially here in tiny Denmark where people live in a dreamland, you know what I mean? And whenever I mention any real issue, it's always like shush shush and like we don't want to talk about that and that's whatever and stuff like that. But now that people's grandmas personally are in danger, you know what I mean? Then everybody fucking panics. And the number of people dying is so tiny compared to all the structural issues we have. So it just really, really makes me angry the way that I see the difference in reaction, just because it's people that they know personally, or just because they've been born a certain way or look a certain way, or is from a certain class, then, oh, okay, now we can care about it, I don't know, the inequality between the reactions is just really disgusting to me, to be honest.
Yeah, but it was like always like that. I mean, if you compare, even black people and white people, if something happens with black people, it's not that actual. If something happens with white, and if something happens terrible in Africa, where there's like
100%.
billions of people, have malnutrition and don't have access to clean water and sanitization, it's nothing. And if there are a couple of 100 people, become ill with coronavirus in Europe, then it's like massive. It's we made it global pandemic. We closed the borders. We do everything. Yeah, I feel kind of also in the same way, but I also kind of see it as a positive. I try to look at it in a positive way. It shows that actually, if there's like right reason, right circumstances, then we like globally we could solve problems, and that's kind of good sign for me. But I think that mostly happens because, again, of the media. I don't know, maybe it's my way of thinking, or I just into this media thinks too much. I see how it's influenced people. We just do get used to it. Okay, global warming. Yeah, everyone knows it. Okay, like 10 years ago, it was like questionable if it's true or not. And I think right now, like most of the people knows about it. Okay, we know there's like poverty in Africa, and where's not? Yeah, we know there's homeless people. And we just get used to this like real and huge global problems. And I just imagine if would like my thoughts on why coronavirus is so infected in media and in online world, not like a virus but like a virtual virus, is because of the mass media just making profit at it. I mean, they create a lot of content, and it works like a bomb, like a media bomb. They just exploded and then infected all the internet, all the media and everything. And that's why it's very actual topic. That's why government's taking actions. And I just wonder, imagine if all the media comes like that and we will try to solve the same like real problems. Yeah, like global warming. We would do the same. Like in 2 weeks' time, we would stop all the production of fossil fuels factories, and we will start to build like new one. And people would come up with millions of ideas how to improve, and in 2 years' time, we would reduce our emissions. I don't know, like 80%.
And no one says that we should do these things at the expense of the other. Like, for example, because I've seen people getting very triggered saying, "Oh, shut the fuck up! Don't talk about, for example, car crashes and so forth. We have a problem here to deal with. You can always say that we have more and more other problems. Of course, I'm saying focus on that, but we also have tons of other problems, and it's showcased now when people take these decisions, like Dima was saying, how unimportant most of the jobs and companies are actually. Like, we do just fine, even if they close every fucking thing. What are the important jobs? Doctors, production of some useful stuff, The rest is like, stay at home. No, we don't need you now. Of course, we don't need you now.
You need your makeup artists and you
Oh, yeah.
marketing
Hair
people
salon
and
or
bullshit jobs.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So in that sense, they could also close all of these like oil companies when you have the alternative of renewable energies and so forth. If they really wanted to, they can be like in the same draconian way, be like, okay, stop it. No, all of the scientists
exactly.
we are fucked. No, just fuck off. You stop this. You come with the police and the army and everything. Just stop them. And that's it. You know, if they really want to.
But you know what? That's virus. That's exactly show that it's actually possible. Exactly as you said. If we would decide, we would just close them. You know, like like next day, you know, the police would come and close all the factories, and we would find a solution to, you know, to better alternative. So the question is, why it doesn't happen? How do you think?
There's interesting parallel between two invisible viruses. One is trade, and one is the coronavirus in a way. And if society could focus on the trade one, it would be an interesting.
No. But my point is like right now, millions people are losing money because of all these restrictions. Because the China was in quarantine for the last few months, like so many companies get fucked because they're they depend on the China production and in Europe and in US and all over the world. And even right now, when quarantine in many countries, people losing jobs, companies are get closed, and it's like extremely burden. It's not like commercial. I don't know how to put in words correctly, but it's not like capitalism. Capitalism's thinking. So.
But they have the solution. I have seen. They're like, okay, we invent more 700 billion. Let's put them there. You know, we get people. Yeah, in the US, they're like, oh, people are panicking. Let's give them $1,000 a month for like 3 months or so until everything goes. You know, I'm like, well, what the fuck are you doing? Why are we doing this fucking thing? You know, for what? You know, just keep the production, keep everything, automate as much as possible. Forget about the fucking trades. No, at least for the basic needs. Because now it's not a problem. Like. People are like, okay, stay at home to not spread the virus. I'm like, okay, I'm a responsible human being. I stay inside. I wear gloves, maybe not inside. I wash my hands like 45 times a day. But if you have a job, go. You know, that's a good reason. You know, good reason. If you didn't have jobs, maybe you will spread a lot less. You know, but they cannot go as far, even in society, as saying, you know, all of the jobs, fuck off. You know, just pause them. Somehow that slips through. The fucking things. You know? On one hand, they can close a lot of things. On the other hand, they like still see these kind of essential things because people are still going to work. I've seen this footage from Madrid. After a few days they closed it, it was traffic jam in Madrid because people are going to fucking work like every fucking day. I'm like,
but maybe people couldn't afford to stay at home.
That's what I'm saying. Of course.
Yeah, that's the problem.
If they had at least access to the basic needs, these things won't be that.
Definitely.
Bad.
That's a sad case for many people now because many people across the globe are working on part-time jobs or whatever. So the people employing them are not going to give them money during this time. They're going to go on unpaid leave.
Yeah. I know a couple.
Many people are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're really depending on it. So what are they going to do now? So this is going to cause a ripple effect that's going to be terrible for so many.
Yeah.
It's also terrible to just think like, oh, my business is losing, you know. We should not think like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But people think like that in this society because they depend on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people would say that the worst thing about this virus is the fact that people will be unemployed, you know, and that the economy will go down. I mean, I'm not saying that's not a problem, you know. I mean, that's probably going to affect me personally, you know, and Tio's entire family who depends on tourism. In the summertime, if the situation doesn't improve by the summer, we might be fucked completely, you know, because we need to make some money somehow from tourism. And I mean, of course, that's really shitty, but you have to understand what is the problem here. I mean, it's not particularly the virus, right? It's the structure of our society that's based on these stupid bullshit jobs and the fact that you can't just survive on Earth without doing something that's completely pointless and meaningless and not important at all. You know, when it comes to survival as a species, you know.
Even when you look where it started, because like this orange guy in the US, it's president, whatever the name. It's like he's like the China virus, you know, the China virus infiltrated US. Like motherfucker, if China will do well, like most of the population, wouldn't have those fucked up markets where such viruses are spreading. Just wouldn't. But now the China virus invades the US, and now it's a US virus because they have to fucking deal with it. Okay, so in the first place, maybe such outbreaks won't happen if the society will not be so relying on trades. Because people are like, oh, how do you connect that is whatever the fabric? Well, I'm telling you how. The virus spread very likely from a market. A market is nothing more than poor people going there and trying to sell shit, right? So they are so poor. They don't care about the sanitation. Like, they don't have a fridge to put the fucking meat in that fridge. They don't have. They just kill some animals or import food from someone who knows where and just sell it, because others are buying it. Well, if that wasn't there in the first place, it's very unlikely to see such huge spreads of viruses and this kind of viruses that are transmitted from food, because we have means to cook those fucking foods and don't live in fucking caves anymore. So it's kind of connected, you see.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we could be much better prepared for such pandemics. You can have a lot more medical equipment, a lot more beds per capita in hospitals. You can have enough ventilators to be prepared, at least, sitting somewhere on the side, medical equipment in general, just in case of something happening, instead of spending most of people's time and energy doing bullshit jobs, selling bullshit products that we don't actually need.
Yeah.
The situation right now is still so all these restrictions, they're basically damaging all the economical system, yet the countries and governments still apply them, and that's what's interesting to me, like why they're doing it. Any ideas on that?
It seems like yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking that there's a little bit like it's similar to what's happening with the companies. Is just my thoughts on it. I don't know if it's now 100% correct or anything, but I've just seen all the companies kind of like utilizing this situation to be like, oh, look how much we care about you, like putting all these things up with like, remember to wash your hands, like, let's take care of everybody, blah, 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 blah. And I think sometimes maybe in terms of the states globally, it's been a little bit of a PR thing as well. Like, oh, look how much we take care of our people, how much we care about everyone and stuff. That's maybe my thought in that.
Virtue signaling.
Yeah, I also tend to think a bit in such direction. Also because of the media and because it's like massive thing now. Government forced to take those actions.
It's like if you're the only state who doesn't do any restrictions, everyone's gonna look at you and be like, "You don't care about anyone." Like,
Right.
I think it's also because all countries, because of this issue, have gone in self-preservation mode. So, like Statopus, the governments have taken action in order to save their little tribe or save their population. So people are just like contracted. The world is contracted into stopping global trade and these companies from constantly going front and back and people traveling, mass tourism, stuff like that. So in a way, the world has contracted a bit, or all the tribes have contracted to pull back the population in order to maintain security of their own population, and then not too many Italians die or not too many Germans die and stuff like that. So I think that element has also definitely played a role, and each country is closing their borders to protect their soil and their people. Yeah,
it's also a real like more down, how to say it, like more like technical and scientific and whatever reason, in terms of like probably they realize that their healthcare systems will collapse, because it happened in Italy already. So when that collapses, then they also get fucked, even financially. They get fucked, getting fucked, because they have to like invest more and more in whatever they have to invest. And if that collapses, then it's a huge, massive problem. It's just a massive problem. I don't think people may realize how bad it might be if a healthcare system collapses. But you don't have to think only in terms of like this coronavirus patients. We have lots of other patients, like old people, cancer people with cancer, and so forth. So many, and people cannot function anymore in the system. So probably that's also, I'm sure that plays in. That's why they said, okay, whatever.
Yeah, that's why they're concentrated on this flatten the curve.
Yeah, exactly.
The funny thing is as well that you can close borders, you can lock down Denmark, you can lock down the United States, but you're still the people are still living in cities. The majority of the human population, or about 50% of humans, live in these cities where everybody is so tightly knit together, and hence these diseases get spread as well more. Instead, if people were much more spread out, it would be a different situation. So that's another factor, of course, that we live in such highly or densely populated places where 1 million people are packed into 1 square kilometer or however much space they're given, making people as well super claustrophobic when they have to stay indoors because they're not allowed to leave their houses and so forth, which will all cause all kind of other problems mentally and whatnot.
There's a question in the chat. What do you guys think about 5G related to coronavirus rumors?
Oh, that's an important question. Also, actually, we can skip that one. What the
You don't think about
5G? What about the bottled water and the coronavirus? What about you can come up with so many conspiracies. That
Sure,
it's
right,
just
endless.
I mean, viruses live in living things. They need to be in a living thing in order to reproduce. So.
No, I don't even know about the rumors. What are the rumors?
I don't know. I never heard of this 5G having to do anything with coronavirus.
It's on the cutting edge.
Many people think.
Relate.
Yeah.
We're too old school.
I don't know.
I'm using 4G on there.
Yeah, right.
But there are many people who believe that somehow 5G negatively impacts people's, I don't know, people's behavior and not behavior, but I don't know. And there are many people who believe that. I don't know why.
I never heard of that.
There are also some people who conspire that that someone like the COVID-19 is like human made because of
Bioweapon.
overpopulation.
Yeah.
So they're like, let's just kill some people.
I think it
So that's
works.
also
Not really good.
Right.
And that rate should be way more higher. It's like at least 50%.
I think the more realistic conspiracy was that it's made in a lab, but it just escaped. Like I think that's what happened with, they say with HIV. They were saying.
Okay.
So that's plausible. It could be plausible, but from what I've read, they analyzed the structure, the DNA of the viruses, the RNA, and they say that this is very unlikely. But if you make all kinds of such ideas, like you have to kind of trust someone in such big situations because you cannot go out there and like I can analyze the virus and I can tell you where it comes from, where it's connected with 5G. We have different organizations around the world who can study such things.
And especially now when this topic is so hot, there's so much misconceptions, so much misleading information, and so much different information. So you don't really know where to trust. Some sources telling, "Oh, don't worry, it doesn't, affect humans if you touch someone or if you just breathe." Others say, "Okay, it's only saliva," and people just get confused because the amount of information is so huge and it contradicts each other, and then they get confused. So that's also the problem. The way our news portals and all the bloggers and everything works. They just
isn't that connected to trade again? Because it's like people want something.
Of course. That's why we see so much, because it's a hot topic and it's easy to monetize this content. People looking for it, they will more likely watch your video if you put whatever blah 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 coronavirus, and that's how it is.
You win. So people spread all kinds of bullshit around, And when people don't know where to get reliable news sources, who to trust, and they just go in their Facebook feed, getting whatever random shit people might write or post.
Yeah, because I also heard, I hear my parents sometimes. My mother is like, "Oh, they discovered like a cure for it," or "Oh, discover whatever." I'm like, well, knowing a bit about how science works and how healthcare from reading a lot, I'm like, you don't come up with a cure in like a few weeks, even a few months. Even a vaccine takes between 12 to 18 months to properly test, So, but that's what they post. If you get information from Facebook, I don't know. I think it's a war on social networks now with this fucking thing. I don't know because I don't stay there. I only read from Trom-Curated news, and even that exploded at one point. I was trying to maintain that somehow. There's too much news about this. I was feeling sick, Okay, every day deaths and this and this and that. And oh my God, stop a little bit, Imagine what is on social networks.
Also when it spreads through people, it's quite important that people know how to deal with it, And so if they get like a bunch of different like guidelines and like headlines and all kinds of things, I think that's also a quite big sign of how well or not well we're handling this,
So are you saying like using a hair dryer to blow hot air up my nose will not cure the coronavirus?
Well,
Have you tried it?
Not yet,
Maybe if you do that, but you chop up some garlic and then snort
Oh,
it.
right. Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
The
yeah. And then blow
antioxidants.
dry it.
But don't forget to turn off your 5G phone.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Otherwise, all that will be
come on.
reversed.
How's
and
your
we'll get
Wi-Fi?
the virus.
Rafa sent interesting comment. In Spain, breast diseases is the third major cause of death in the country, according to WHO. That's why I think people are dying in higher proportions than other countries.
What is the third?
Breathing, like respiratory
Oh,
infection.
Yeah, the respiratory infection is the third major cause in Spain.
Yes, because people were looking like, how come older people die and not like with most influenza, like virus infections, children also should be affected. And in this case, it's very likely that there are many people who are old suffer from respiratory diseases, So that's a really weak thing to have in this kind of pandemic, So you are very likely it's not like old people are more susceptible to this. People who have problems, especially respiratory problems, will be weaker in the face of this virus. And statistically, old people have more such problems. That's why old people die, Because if you look at Italy also has the one of the oldest population out there. You look at Italy, the statistics, and it's like deaths from coronavirus, almost none, except in the 80s and 90s, is like skyrocketing, So that's also important to mention here. Like for those who may not know, coronavirus, like 80% of the people who get infected have almost just mild symptoms. It's like just like the flu, the common flu. The rest 20% have more acute, and only 5% of those have like really serious problems, and they can die. So you don't have to be extremely maybe panic. This is maybe in an ironic or funny way that where Romania is doing well now is funny because like most Romanians are in Italy and now they came back to Romania because they have no jobs, So it's like they have shitty contracts or no contracts at all working illegally. So they come back to Romania with the coronavirus. It's even a funny story with this guy from this time from Spain, from Madrid, boarding the plane, coming to Romania. He has a paper from the Spanish healthcare system saying, you have coronavirus, you have to stay at home for 14 days. I said like, home is Romania, I'm just going to Romania. And he went into a plane with all of the people and got arrested in Romania. But in Romania is funny because now they're hunting those people with the police, hunting them to lock them down who come from abroad. But the funny thing in Romania is that most infected ones are below 70 years old. Very rare you have, or below 60 actually. So most people who get infected have nothing almost like. So Romania is like, we are doing quite well. But because the life expectancy in Romania is so low, it's like 75, you see, most people don't get much problems probably anyways. But that's also another thing that I wanted to mention. When you see Italy having so many infected and deaths, you say, oh my God, poor Italy. However, other countries may have maybe even more, but they didn't test it. For example, US only did like around 40,000 tests, okay? Italy did around 160,000 plus tests, okay? So US probably has a lot more infections than Italy, but depends how many do fucking tests, of course, right? So that's also something to consider. Romania only has like 200 or so that's no problem, but they didn't test it, just like 4,000 or something.
Yeah, because when most cases are mild, and sometimes you might even have no symptoms, if you're young and healthy and you're fine. But the problem is when you go and pass it to your grandmother or your parents who are older.
And how much worse is this virus compared to like the normal flu that happens every year? Because like there's something like 300 to 600,000 that die every year from the flu globally.
Well, yeah, but you have to know how they calculate it. For one, you only have a small sample size, like 2 months or 3 months, so you don't have to wait for a year to see. Maybe now you have millions of people infected, but you only detect a few 100,000. Now they say officially 200,000 people are infected, right? It could be 20 million actually. So out of those,
like
out of those,
in average, was like 54 millions each year, more or less, like infected by WHO from influenza.
okay, that's what I'm about to say. It's like you don't know how many people are infected now. So it's very difficult to draw a conclusion. Like, but from what they have now and projecting to the future, they say that the best estimate is like this one is the death rate is 0.2 to 3.4%. So out of all who gets coronavirus, 0.2% of them, that to 3.4% will die. Influenza is like 0.1%. So it's at least double or triple, or could be like 10 times more deadly, they will say. And it's even more infectious. They say it's like 3 times more infectious than influenza. So it could be. I've seen this. They did a study in like Johns Hopkins University, I think, for US, and they said in the worst case scenario, in US this year will die 2.7 million people from coronavirus. In the best case scenario, only 1.3 million. So
What?
yeah, so there will
That's
be
just in
lots of
US.
deaths. That's just in the US. Yes.
What? But currently there have only been 171 deaths.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
This is the
that's-
beginning of that exponential growth.
They're planning and expecting for basically 100 million infected, and so like
Or at least that, I think,
Yeah.
almost like half of the population.
But
Right.
if the measures weren't taken today, or
If no measures will be taken, for example, from the US, no measures, there will be like 2.7 million deaths, they say. If all of the measures will be taken, like closing borders and don't allow gatherings, it's like around 1 million people will die.
Because the difference is that curve, like we were saying, if so many get infected at once, really fast, like they are in Italy, then it overtakes the ability of the healthcare system to keep up with those infections. If they get infected, but because of the preventative measures that we take, they do it slower, and say the same amount of people get infected either way. Either they get infected really fast or at a slower rate. If they get infected at a slower rate, then hospitals can handle that and they can save a lot more lives. Yeah. Whereas if hospitals get overwhelmed and the healthcare system collapses, then a lot more people will die. And that's why they're saying it's important to take such measures.
Those are called avoidable.
But do you guys really think that 1 million people will die in the United States from this?
I have no idea. That's what
it seems like.
Because that seems like a crazy number.
Yeah.
That's like if that many. I mean, from
now you're starting to feel that panic there, Seb.
Are
you sure?
I'm looking at the numbers. I'm seeing 171. You know. Like
well, that's exactly it.
I was talking about that analogy with the exponential growth. That we don't function kind of like that. I mean, it's kind of hard to project that. But that's how it happens with exponential. Like I'm telling you, a week ago in Spain, it was like nothing, But now it's like 20,000 more cases, and but every day it grows by thousands.
What you're gonna say about China? Since the quarantine, they stopped basically their new cases of.
Have you seen, like, I saw a DW documentary about Beijing lately, and they they went really like hardcore on their people. You're not allowed to go outside without a mask at all. You can only go outside with special permission, only one person from your household at a time, once every few days, and they're like super draconian about it. And they also have apps that tell you exactly where everybody that was infected is, where they have gone that day. So they've gone really hardcore on, taking these measures to prevent it from spreading fast.
Well, that's the thing. It worked, but they don't know for sure. Here's why: because they think that since it's so infectious, it can rebound, and it can start in another part of China, just like that, and then will infect even more. It's like influenza; you cannot kind of control it. It can be like many people have this virus, and everything is fine until it spreads like exponentially to other parts of the world. Like it happened in Italy, especially they spread in hospitals to doctors. That's what happened there.
Okay,
it was something like 8% of all Italian doctors got the virus.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How many?
8%.
8%, I think.
Something like 2,000-3,000, I think.
No, sure.
But imagine this. It's like perfect capitalist utopia. if you could have virus which kills only old people, that's good for the government. They don't need to pay. Why do we need to?
There we go.
I don't know people.
They don't
Yeah,
get their retirement money.
Yeah, exactly. It's a burden for.
It wasn't there for
government.
them anyway, so.
How could we kill off like people
Yeah.
above 60?
Now you're thinking like a capitalist, huh?
But most capitalists are above 60, or many of the hardcore ones.
They have access to those beds, you know. They have access to these intensive care beds. They have them on
They
call.
took all the ventilators.
Yeah, they did.
Only the poor old people.
That's right.
Of course. But yeah, it's very difficult to say now exactly how this will turn out to be. But whatever I've read everywhere is that it's going to be a lot worse than influenza. Whatever that means, you know, it means. But they say that at least half of the population will have this virus at one point. The human population,
Right.
because it spreads so much. So, I mean, you can have it. I can have it, but you have no way to tell it. You know, and since no one tests you,
I'm like a church. I'm Christian, but I don't give a fuck. So it's like, it's the same with virus. If it doesn't affect young people that much, then it doesn't matter. It's like if you most of the cases have low or mild affections, then it's not a big deal. It's like a flu.
Right.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be worried.
Go on.
I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be worried about any of us. I'd be worried.
Right.
I'd be worried about my grandmothers. About maybe my parents.
Right.
there was an interesting video on Tom created videos showcasing the Spanish flu versus this kind of, that was, I think, the biggest pandemic since this one, they say, which is funny because like it's called the Spanish flu, not because it comes from Spain, but because they are the first ones to admit it, that it's a pandemic here, and they called it the Spanish flu. I don't know who the motherfuckers were who like started it, probably still in China. But anyways, they show those two, and that killed a lot of people, like tens of millions of people. Of course, the conditions were different there. It was like World War II or something.
World War I.
Yeah. But they also, it's an interesting case in US. It was a town who decided to close when this epidemic was in full swing. Another town who said, let's just make this fucking concert, whatever the fuck they had there. And
big parade.
Yeah.
If you look at statistics and deaths between those two cities, it's like the deaths in the city was who didn't close are like way higher than the one who closed, because again, the healthcare system couldn't cope. And that's another important thing to mention here is like, it's not like we don't have like resources around the world or whatever. It's just that tribes, they are overwhelmed by such things. But overall, I think in the world, probably we're not. If we acted as one, like if at least Europe acted as one, don't let just Italy handle with their fucking things, but help them. Or when it's starting in China, try to help China as much as possible so that doesn't spread, So it's not like we lack hospital beds and so forth globally, I would say, or our capacity to build more. Look at World War I or World War II. If those motherfuckers wanted to build something, they fucking built something right now. Just right now, they made the fucking factory and they built. Even the Chinese were like, let's build 1,000 hospitals, How do you do that? I don't fucking know. Let's fucking build them, And they fucking built a shit ton of hospitals somehow, If you really want, you have the capacity to do that.
Yeah. But instead, the system prevents us from doing that. Like, what was that article you said that you read about the 3D printed?
Yeah. The ventilator.
Yeah.
That wanted to create open source ventilator to like save more lives, and then a company was like, "Oh, it looks too much like our ventilator, so you're not allowed to do that." Imagine that they could do it. They could rebuild. Like I've watched is this initiative of some doctors to make an open source kit to test for coronavirus. Okay, I watched their stream and so forth. It's quite interesting. And their biggest problem, imagine this, is to make the kit somehow that it doesn't resemble the kits that are already out there, because they will get sued. And that's the challenge now. Imagine the fuckery. Instead of like focusing to invent the most efficient one, you have to make one that is not so similar to whatever these other people invented, because you'll get sued. Well, so then you see,
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
So rather than just helping each other out, everyone is still focused on a way to make money. You know, this is our piece, and we can't produce more, but you guys can't do it either because we need this to make money. You know, you can't test this way because it's ours. Like, what kind of crazy bullshit?
I mean, isn't there a challenging thing there with open source? Because like, don't some open source softwares like Linux and stuff like that have to patent stuff in order for other people not to patent it, and then for them to
I think
fuck it
it's
up?
more
Or
in
no?
terms of licenses. It's like if the release is under a license, it's like the license matters in this case.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
But, you know, speaking just to like give you, I think this on Reddit is crazy. Samsung or Sony, I don't remember. They find the patent. Sometimes like people who go to patents to see whatever companies come up with. Samsung or Sony, I don't remember, made a patent for their TV. They insert ads, and the only way for people to stop the ads is to stand up
Oh my god.
and say the name of the company, like McDonald's.
Oh my
It's not
gosh.
a joke.
Oh
It's a
my
pattern. You can see the schematics there of people coming like standing up and saying McDonald's, and you will pause the commercial. If you don't watch the TV, the commercial will stop and will continue after we come back, something like that. So well, that's the world we live in, you know.
That's a smart device.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even without that potential future, still now, if you want to watch them a lot on YouTube and shit, there are ads all over the place. And if you walk around in cities, it's already quite a dystopia in terms of ad marketing and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
One would think it's illegal, but no.
I would like people to also mention these kind of things when they talk about why we cannot deal with coronavirus. Like, well, look why, because this stupid trade-based system that stops people from doing real things. You know, we just have to do these imaginary things to that maybe sometimes do some real things like, oh, but we need the approval and oh my god, the patent. Who owns this patent? Instead of focusing like, let's solve the problem. You know.
Yeah, and let's focus on things that will make our society better as a whole, as a more healthy, you know, species, and do things that can actually benefit us instead of like, oh yeah, I own this and I'm going to get this and I need to make this bullshit product and sell more and sell more and sell more. Like,
exactly, yeah.
So now it kind of really shows us like which jobs are actually important, which aren't.
Yeah, that really showcases like most things are bullshit. Anyway,
hey, people.
Most jobs are no one needs them. Imagine if people needed so many jobs to like trade for their whatever they need, there'll be more doctors, more real, not jobs, but like I don't know, people working towards making some real impact, like engineers and doctors and so forth. But now it's like, oh, we have so less doctors. Oh, of course, motherfucker, because now if you get be an Instagram model, you make a lot more money.
Yeah.
You want me to learn for 10 years and get like 3,000 euros a month?
Yeah, and if people generally, if there were a lot more doctors, but every doctor, you know, worked a lot less, then in a time when there was a pandemic or something or an outbreak, there would be a lot more doctors available that can work longer, you know.
And better, because for example, in Italy, they said that at one point they have to decide who is going to live or who is going to die. And they said that I've seen this documentary saying they're like choosing between a guy who's like in the 80s or human in the 80s and someone in the 60s, and they're like, okay, in the 80s he has less chances to survive, so let's ignore him or her. Focus on the 60-year-old because we have more chances. So that's cruel, but that's what happened. Why no one like you should? Because now, like Seb said, tribes want to just contain themselves and like, oh, Italy, okay, well, leave those motherfuckers alone. Put a wall. You know, we have to protect ourselves. Yeah, but that's not good. That's not good because then you protect yourself, but you will get overwhelmed anyways, and you will need help probably. So let's help each other. Like, can't we be an entire world and just Italy and fucking China? You know,
it's a similar situation with refugees. Just let's build a wall and solve the problem.
In climate change and everything, like, oh, we're not going to lower our emissions because China's not lowering theirs.
Right, yeah.
Oh, but did you see that now because of this fucking like closing everything and so forth, the emissions got lower? And
Actually, it's very good impact.
Or accidentally, okay, sure.
The machine was put on hold for a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe we found the solution, guys. It should be a virus, probably.
I think it's a good time for some scientific research in ecology, just to look to the impact and see the data.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, to see before and after in terms of whether maybe people taking it easy a little bit and not selling more and more weapons or whatever else, polluting more. Actually, a good thing.
Yeah, but it's not like we didn't know, kind of. In theory, we knew that. That's why we create so much
Stop
pollution
burning
and
fuel.
misery. We just now stopped a little bit because we got a bit scared.
Yay.
Civilization was put on hold for a bit.
Just a little bit.
And imagine this outbreak if this virus was a lot more dangerous. It just happens to be that it's pretty safe for us. Like it impacts old people and people with problems, but for the most part, the death rate is quite low. And imagine how this world would react if it was like 50% chance of dying for anybody.
We're not having this cast right now, Sasha.
Don't say that, because just I saw like 4 police cars going here. Where are they going?
Going to pick up some people to you.
Maybe then everybody would be like China, like stay home.
Yeah, imagine if in a case that a virus, and it's not like unlikely, a virus have a mortality rate that's 10 times more, just like 30% mortality rate. They will just make a huge mess in this fucking world just because people are not fucking prepared.
Yeah.
Just not prepared. Such things are not that important,
And another point is also, I don't know, in a few weeks' time or whenever it hits really poor countries, the countries in Africa that won't be able to cope with it, that don't have enough resources, that's going to be really
But it's a good question. Maybe it's already there, way more terrible than in Europe. Nobody just tracks it or deal with it. It's just people dying, whatever, they're always dying. So
they don't live that long there anyways.
There's not that many old people.
There's no data. There's just no data.
Maybe, yeah, of course, there's no data. But maybe because there are not so many old people, the virus is not that deadly there, so nobody cares about it.
That's what I'm saying in Romania. That's actually true, I think, in Romania. There are not many old people because they die around 70 something, So it's like
that's okay.
75 or so, but that's why. But most infections are just in the lower population, lower age population. So they're like, just a mild cold, probably just a current, because Romania maybe is the air current or the cold weather or whatever the fuck.
Oh, you're Romanians. You have to eat garlic. So.
Vampire style. No.
Romanians don't eat garlic. No, but it's also still the beginning. Like we'll see how it develops.
Yeah.
We'll see a month from now what's going on in Romania and Africa and everywhere else.
Do you guys think this will strengthen kind of the tribalism people have already? Because afterwards maybe people would be like, oh, look how my nation and my state kind of cared for me and brought us through it and we did it together and stuff like that.
I think there's a duality to that, of course. There are always two sides, I think, that will be pushed from this, and maybe many people will see how, okay, we can solve problems globally and stuff like that, and this is a global issue, but it's not necessarily being resolved globally. The approach is local, the approach is tribal. So definitely many people will maybe feel more tribal, and certainly here in Denmark it certainly feels like tribalism and to the Danish nation has knocked up a bit, and same in Germany and other places, I bet. But our problems of course are not confined to this imaginary space. So I think there's also positive to it, because many people, you see the work so many people are doing in gathering international data and working as well, to try to figure out what's going on in the entire world. So
I've seen this news that this company in Germany who is getting close to, like, now I think they're testing a vaccine for coronavirus, but then US give them a phone call. It's like, motherfuckers, what if we buy you? We invent this in US, let's make the virus in the US. And then it kind of blew up in Germany. It's like they found out about this, and the European Union said, no, we don't give you this fucking access. We want to make available for all the European people.
Not just to sell.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
What?
Not just US,
Nice.
but so you know that they have this kind of pride, of course. Like we invented the fucking vaccine or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Trump is also going around calling it the Chinese virus and like blaming China for it. It's China. So
Because
China.
imagine how much money you can make if you all create a vaccine. So it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if in the case it will be free for some people, still governments have to pay for it. It's not really free.
Right.
Yeah. Certainly, a couple people making a lot of money now, or thinking about all kind of certain ideas.
Or,
Oh, there are also lots of scams.
Yeah.
A bunch of scams, asking for donations, like taking people's fear and transforming it into a business. You know,
Hey.
in these kinds of things. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of news about that. Yeah,
what was it like taking the coronavirus maps and
yeah.
collecting
Coronavirus.
data from everybody that installed them?
Yeah, and if if you're unfortunate to run Windows or Mac OS, which I don't recommend at all, you should rather run from Java. But if you are unlucky to run those and you install that on your computer, it's like, oh, it's a map, let's showcase whatever, and they steal your passwords and probably their credit cards and so forth. There are also these emails that are sent from so-called official governmental sources. They appear as like, and they say, okay, we give you instructions what to do because it's this lockdown, and you download this fucking file, a PDF or whatever, and then it's again a virus, another kind of virus, you see. You're using a virus to spread another virus.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
It's very effective.
Yeah. I also feel like this situation, I mean, of course, maybe one is always like this, but this situation maybe puts more people into the mindset that they feel at the mercy of these big corporations and the big government in suiting their needs. So people are not in control of their resources, like of course they are as well without this. But yeah, people cannot grow their own food or don't have access locally to energy supplies or know how anything functions. Most people are not off the grid or self-sufficient. They're very dependent on the supermarkets. If the supermarket closes, we're more or less fucked, or most people are. So the way in which society is set up, it's not necessarily empowering to most people. Of course, it's not like this as well without the virus, but the virus maybe makes more people panic and feel like they they're not in control whatsoever. And I bet in many countries around the world where things are a little more messy, people are definitely reconsidering to moving other places in case groceries run out or supermarkets close, or of course the government doesn't have enough hospital beds. So yeah.
Yeah, what else? I've seen that in this positive news is this there are no treatments, of course, but this was this experiment with stem cell therapy successful in 19 cases or so. They give like I think this immunosuppressants or something so that their immune system doesn't fuck them up basically. So in those patients it worked. They tested some coronavirus patients and this kind of worked in more than half of them. So they are working on these kinds of things too. It's not all doom and gloom, in terms of treatments. And probably very likely they will come up with a vaccine, but it could probably take a year or so. And it's likely this will become the next flu, but deadly, very likely. And yeah, especially for old people and people who are sick. Because that's what, for example, Spain is trying to do. I've seen they try to, because when you test people, it's not like they randomly test people. That's another thing. Like probably a lot more people have this coronavirus now. They test people who are suspicious of having the coronavirus. And in Spain, for example, they test pretty much everyone who has respiratory problems. They stuck to those people. So it's now that Rafa also said that he looked that Spain has lots of respiratory problems, diseases among the population. It makes sense, So yeah, but I looked at in terms of tests, you wouldn't think. I don't know if you know which country had the most tests per million people, and it's Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that.
Nope.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
That was the answer, Cody. A million people. Yeah.
That's okay.
It's by a large amount of tests compared to, for example, US or others. So how come some people do it so fast and so quickly and others don't?
And then Emirates was like the second, wasn't it?
Which one?
Kuwait. It's like
Kuwait.
Emirates and Kuwait, yeah.
Yeah, which like 120,000 tests or something they did.
Oh wow.
Compared to even in, say, France, that is like 60,000 or yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This drive-throughs seem to work.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to have made that from the beginning, because imagine how many people went to hospitals with the coronavirus and they infected. That's the worst. If they infect the hospital, then the hospital is like, you go there and then you get the coronavirus. Like that's really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's super shitty. You go there with another illness. You didn't even
Right.
have the virus, and you come out with the virus. And
It's also funny when I see like, oh my god, schools are closing. What are students going to do? Motherfucker, they don't do anything anyways. You know, they keep doing bullshit things. You know, what? They are the next like marketing or strategy bullshit jobs, whatever. What? You know, it's not like they're missing anything. Oh my god, let's make virtual schools. Why don't you make something that is like teach people to solve these kind of problems? You know, make everybody a little kind of doctor. You know, don't have to be a doctor, but someone who knows how to deal in this kind of situations. Because nobody fucking knows. People don't even know what the fuck a virus is. Like, oh, my doctor says to wash my hands. Like, I wonder why. You know, even my mom said to wash my hands every time after I eat. Maybe it's that kind of advice, you know. But it's not kind of that kind of advice. I don't know. I don't think people know much. So people don't even take it maybe seriously. I've seen some videos from like tourists from UK and Spain. They're like, hey, you know, hey, let's party, man. If I drink a beer, that's it. I don't fucking need any fucking thing, you know. And in US, people partying, like was this girl. She was like, I take vitamins and then supplements, and I'm so good, and everything is fine. My immune system is rock solid. I'm like, fuck off. You don't know anything about this.
But that's the thing. It's like probably that girl will be fine, and all these young people will be fine.
Yeah.
But they're gonna bring it home to their parents and their grandparents, and then they're gonna die probably.
Or they just spread it to other even healthy people
Yeah.
who spread it further.
All kinds, yeah. So I mean, that's the problem. Not that they're going to be directly affected that badly, you know. So.
Yeah, so we should just tell the old people to stay indoors, whilst everyone else can go outside, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing that like Theo and I were talking about is like just quarantine all the old people, okay?
They're anyway indoors most of the time anyway.
That would be more rational instead of closing all the country.
Probably, or I don't know, because that's
but
what
I mean,
thinking.
if you put such aim, if you put such a goal, then maybe you would came up with something.
Yeah, but to quarantine them, it means someone has to bring them food, someone has to take care of them, so you need hospitals.
But I still think it's way more cheaper for the country to do than to isolate the whole country and the whole working class.
And to have everybody lose their jobs.
Like right now in Spain, most of the people just sitting at home.
Oh, but no, they go to work, Dima. Most people probably go to work.
No, not the most. Like I can see it here. Less targeted people working, some of them, but it's still minority, and not only in internet, because some others, like if in internet, it depends on what you do. If your clients doesn't have jobs, then you don't have orders as well. So like that's affect me as well in the same way. I think okay, I'm work from home anyway, but the people who I'm working with, they don't have money right now because they're sitting at home. They can go to their normal jobs. So it's also affected.
Right.
Yeah, of course, it's a huge problem. I mean, think about everybody like in the service industry working in restaurants and bars and cafes and whatever, and anybody working for an airline, anybody working in the travel industry, like all kinds of shitty jobs. And those people depend on that. They need the daily or weekly or monthly income from that, or they're fucked, you know. So of course it's a problem too. But again,
Yeah.
that's the problem with the structure of our society, that it's based on these stupid bullshit jobs.
Exactly, and that shows like how many people. I guess like most of the people live from salary to salary. In any case, that show the vulnerability. If something like that happens, like how long can you survive? Really?
Yeah, it's really bad. Like my dad, he lives in Moscow, and he sells tours for people to go on vacation in places like Turkey and Thailand and stuff. And he's totally screwed. Like, not only is he not getting any money at all, he needs to return back all the money from people that have canceled their trips. So now he's already spent this money on his like food and stuff, on his daily expenses, and now he needs to return the money that he's already spent. And it's not going to get better anytime soon. So he's completely screwed. I'm going to be completely screwed. A lot of people are going to be completely screwed. So
Except for people maybe who have online businesses, like Google maybe, or
But
Amazon
even
potentially.
the other business also going a bit down right now because not many people buying stuff. Like most of the people try to save money right now at the moment. And again, huge chunk of population not working, doesn't have income right now. So,
But I think it's really great for people who are collecting data. I think they're still doing all right. I mean,
yeah, probably.
yeah, these big companies, billionaires, probably will get richer some way, somehow.
Whatever happens, they get richer.
Yeah, anything that happens. So they'll figure out a way to profit off of people being fucked.
Yeah.
And the poorest people are going to suffer the most, just like with any catastrophe, you know?
And why? Because we don't have inches, like Alan once was saying. We have everything, but we have no inches to build a house. We have the wood, we have the notions, no more inches. And then we are going to freeze as a society. Like, oh my God, no more money. What we're going to do? What do you mean, motherfucker? We still have, like, the production is the same. The production of stuff today, you'll see, is the same, probably even more. And everything else is the same. It's just like, just distribute that fucking thing somehow in a better way. But,
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, if a lot of people lose their useless jobs, it's not like there's not going to be enough food available all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Most likely food production will be fine, or enough housing, all the housing that...
It's just that they cannot buy it, Yeah. That's the problem here. They can't just, it's there, they just cannot buy it. They cannot access it. Why? They don't have money. What the fuck do you mean? I don't know.
What the fuck is money?
That's how it works. So
That's to the question. Like such global crises, do they really open up a new way of thinking for humans to see that something wrong with our economical system, that something not right? Why there's like goods and services, but I cannot access them because of the virus and because everything was closed and I couldn't go to my job, and like. I think in general more people start to understand it, but like looking at the people, I still think it's very small percentage of them. They probably have to be really in a bad situation, like really at the edge of survival. Then I don't know. Even then, maybe they will just go and hit and kill someone and steal something rather than to try to get the whole
value
picture.
system. Yeah, I think the value system will survive that. Just like homeless people blame themselves for being in their situation, I think a lot of people, they will still be like, oh, our government and the police and the hospitals and everything did everything they could, and I'm thankful for whatever they've done.
Yeah, most people will probably just see it as an unfortunate situation, like, oh, it was a virus and that sucks, and like that's it, not to think further. But maybe a few, like, wasn't that what got like Fresco thinking? Was the Great Depression?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the goods, we don't have a way to get to them.
Are you saying that now is going to spark a few frescoes?
Probably not.
I think that's optimistic.
They all die.
Different times now, completely different times.
Oh yeah, because now you don't even have time to think anymore. Your time of thinking is just completely traded to whatever companies want that from you. So.
But you probably could have said that back then too. During the Great Depression, people don't have time to think. They're just trying to survive, and they're busy with whatever their families saying this and that. But.
Oh
And
yeah,
even
And
if-
few people did think. It's not like there was a lot of frescoes.
Exactly. And let's say you have a bunch of frescoes that are created. I mean, is it gonna change? I don't know. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? There have been amazing thinkers in this world. So, in the past hundreds of thousands of, yeah, not hundreds of thousands, but since the beginning of agriculture and we started civilization and so on, there have been many people who have been talking about how capitalism and trade has been messing things up, and we need to, develop a different type of setup. But it's just been a continuous perpetuation by this trade machine, and now we are pushing 8 billion people, and we're on a finite planet, and it's just gonna keep going. It seems. I don't know.
Yeah,
You
but at
just
least
summed
we'll
up
have,
the depression.
and we'll definitely have more good content. If we'll have more frescoes.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
It will be
Yeah,
a nicer ride. There's no doubt.
And that's super sad. Like when you look at the life of such persons who dedicate them for such bright aims and made a lot of work and still yet doesn't achieve nothing besides educating other people. It's kind of depressing in a way.
yeah, because this so-called capitalism system, it really works a lot better than feudalism or dictatorship and so forth. Like we said before, people could blame someone, or at least had this illusion or had the means to like change something. But here is like so diluted in so many parts, of the society. You don't even know who the fuck to blame, when people want to blame, or what to change. They change politicians, and then nothing happens. They blame themselves. It's like, oh, I can become the next millionaire and so forth. It's such a big illusion, and it kind of fucking works. You go in a supermarket and you see 40 types of toilet paper, and you're like, okay, oh, that's an amazing society. Look at our variety here. Everything is the same. Yeah, that's what, and yet when it comes to such situations, and these capitalist people need to be slapped a little bit, because when it comes to such situations, like this virus pandemic, we rely so much on like volunteers and people like working overtime, not even caring much about money, resources being pulled in and out from mysterious places suddenly. Somehow we don't act like capitalists, anymore that much. We just try to like just do it. I saw this like documentary that's proves so well this kind of mentality, when it's like saving those kids from those like in Thailand, I think it was, from those some kids trapped in a cave, and they are bringing resources more and more. People from all around the world, never looking at money, like what, how much it will cost to take them out. So somehow capitalism doesn't work in these fucking situations. So they need to be slapped a little bit, because they think that capitalism is working. It's not working. It's just an illusion, keeping us just consuming shit. That no greater purpose than that.
No, man, you're digging too deep. No, like regular person gets such connections. It's usually like Chinese are the ones who blame for all this bullshit.
Oh.
It's
Yeah.
it's very short-term thinking.
Yeah, and the important part is our jobs, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what I have been having some different. I've been looking at some anthropological books and research the past couple of months and stuff like that, and the talk about pre the agricultural revolution, pre the Neolithic revolution. So everything 12,000 years before 12,000 years before agriculture began. And it's just interesting, because now we are at 8 billion people, and what created 8 billion people was the advent of agriculture, and thus the continuous reproduction and this hoarding of resources. And then through agriculture, capitalism was created, or the hierarchy was created, and all kind of other things happened after agriculture 12,000 years ago, which then created the 8 billion people we have today. And I was looking into communities or tribal societies before agriculture, and most of them consisted of up to 100 to 150 people, but they never exceeded 150 people. Most of these little tribes, these hunter-gatherers, nor did they have any property, because they were just hunting for food, and they never stored the food, so there was no way in which people could steal anything, because the next day they were just going to steal other food. And there was no property or stuff like that. The whole setup of society was completely different in these hunter-gatherer societies that existed for the majority of human civilization. We have been hunter-gatherers for like nearly 200,000 years before, or however long we've been around, until agriculture hit. And then since agriculture hit, things became centralized. We didn't become nomads anymore, but we stayed in the same place, and then reproduced and slowly increased population size, and then now we're at the, 8 billion people, and we're a different creature when we're 8 billion people, and we have to manage the whole world like that, or we're trying to, or whatever. It's a completely different story. And I just personally was not aware of this prehistoric human era where we were hunter-gatherers, and many people depict that era as being really messed up, and where we were savages and we lived short lives and we were just killing each other and stuff like that. But in many other regards, we were very trade-free. We were living with very little trade, if not any trade at all. And thus, in many other aspects, we were maybe we had better lives. Maybe in some cases not as rich intellectually as today, and so forth. But in some arguments, one can say it was an interesting era, at least
from some perspectives. At least.
From some perspectives,
Because
it doesn't have to be better or worse, but yeah.
I've read about this kind of things. I've seen people discussing, and some have the argument that okay, but they also lived in kind of fear of like all kinds of, from lions to like diseases. They also like
100%.
lived on average about like 30 or so years old. Of course,
I think that's a myth actually with the 30 years old. Because I thought the same thing, but apparently that's a myth. I don't know. I can look into it some more. But because the teeth decompose after 30 years old, so the way in which many people have described it is that people only lived up to 30 years old, but we only can measure it because that's the only evidence we have in order to measure the longevity of the people back then. So it used to be normal, as we used to live to 60, 70 years old. There's a great book by anthropologists, or several, that go into that. But yeah, I don't know. That was just an interesting thing, that people used to live until 60, 70 during that time.
Humans will live even thousands of years ago. Some up until like 90 will live. But it's like the average is because diseases usually kill like most infants.
Yeah,
so
infants,
average,
for sure.
It's a
That's like an
mathematical
average,
thing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why they say that's because we have great data up until 1920s, when you see as when we invented those these little things past medicine that killed like infection diseases. Up until then, you could have clear data that's showcasing that on average people are living around 30, because you can look at the mortality rate. Probably probably if you look in the past, you will find lots of people who lived up until like 80s or so. But you have to take into account like mortality rate overall, like infants and so forth.
100%.
But in any case, now for sure we have a lot better access to, of course, we have medicine and so forth. Despite that costing shit in this society and so forth. But of course, when you have larger populations, it's a completely different game from many perspectives. That's a good. It's unavoidable to have this kind of huge societies, and we have to adapt in a better way. That's why when I was thinking about this idea of like, think about trade as the virus in this society that pushes people to like do bad things. And some people said, what about abundance? What about scarcity? What about? I'm like, well, but you have to take the society as is now. We won't live like in the past. We are too many people now, so you have to identify what kind of fucks things up. We have already abundance of pretty much everything. So you have to identify the virus that pushes people to behave badly, and work with this society. Because some people, when they look at these past societies and maybe we find good things about these past societies, we live maybe better, like less trade-free and so forth. It's not going to happen. We won't go back into this kind of societies, nor we can scale that up in that kind of fashion. Okay, so we have to deal with what is now. That's why I'm saying, look at what creates bad things in society. Look at this kind of virus, and try to like eliminate this from this society and let the society grow out of what it is. Of course, it's fucking complicated. 8 billion people, how the fuck to do it?
Yeah, but the crazy thing is that this virus created the situation that we're in. This virus called trade created the 8 billion people. through the advent of civilization. So it's an inevitable like machine that just grew out of this, and to now at this point where we are, to pick apart that virus that's already been the core cancer, if you will, that the tumor that has just been replicating and causing the situation, is, I don't know, is kind of crazy to think about, particularly because we are 8 billion people, and it's very difficult for most people to care about so many people, because we're built in like a, I don't know, in a way where our, of course, many people, of course, think global and stuff like that, but I don't know.
Your brain's capacity to like have like meaningful relationships is Dunbar's number around the
Definitely.
150.
Yeah, exactly. Dunbar's number is around 150,
Yeah.
and thus it's tricky for people here in Denmark to give a fuck about people in Africa.
Right.
You know, and it's tricky for people in Africa to, of course, you can widen everybody's scope and try to help out, but if we're shoved in cities where you're millions of people gathered together and people walk by homeless people, it's very difficult to give a fuck, because there are a bunch of other people there. But if you're just a few hundred, it's a different story, of course.
But there was the same problems with hunter-gatherers. Okay, you may have good connection in your own tribe, but they always have fight with the closest nearby other tribes. And it's especially a very good scene in Papua, New Guinea, because there's still quite many of those tribes, and they still have today the same problems. Like if you just enter the area of other tribes, you can be killed and so on. And before it was even worse. And the reason why, resources. So there were some maybe good things, but there are also quite a lot of like bad things as well.
Definitely. I'm just thinking like whether that was better than what we have today, you know, because I'm certain that, of course, there were certainly messed up things during hunter-gatherer times, and when we were living 20,000 years ago, we didn't know shit about germs or about the universe or about anything much. So that was a bit not as enlightened times as today for many. But in other aspects, there were times seemingly of abundance during that time for hunter-gatherers, where there was enough food for everybody and people were living very egalitarian, flat social structure, 150 people. So I think there are definitely things to learn, and we survived like that for 200,000 years. Let's not forget that too. Now we're here 12,000 years deep into agriculture, and let's see what's going to happen and how this will continue. Will we stick around for another 8,000 years? I don't know.
But maybe I put in the right wording. You said survive. That looks like really life was a survival. Rather than now, it's way more comfortable and chill. Although we're bragging about the trade system and everything, in fact, we're still living in warm homes with electricity, with all the data, with all the information we want, and the warm food and stuff like that.
The question is whether it's in what ways we are thriving now. You know, is it in the things that actually mean something? Is it like in deep relationships? Is it in doing something that you find meaningful and that you find is adding value to the group? Or is it in ways where we just gather stuff and have more property, and so it's also in what ways is life better now? You know, isn't the ways that actually mean something?
Yeah, of course it's mean a lot, and it's way more comfortable. And if you look also back at the hunter-gatherers, what meaning do they have? Most of their life they just worried about food and survival. And why they moved from one place to another? Because they polluted so much, so they have to move. One reason. Second reason, because they've hunted all the animals around, and they have to move to somewhere else. So it's also not sustainable as it seems. They have to move all the time.
One thing to mention here is that we can never know exactly what was in the past, because we just get little bits of information here and there. Of course, we don't know exactly how life was there. A second thing to mention is that happiness and a good life, it can be quite relative, because you can have warm places and nice food, but be a complete slave mentally and physically to a system. You know, is that better than living in a tribe and not having a warm place, but maybe having more free time? Well, it depends who you ask, you know. So that's also relative, of course. But what I was trying to say with this trade is like, yes, trade allowed us to build this kind of great big societies, where the structure of the core of this cancerous thing, as you say, back then maybe it was not considered as a cancerous thing. Even now, maybe it's not. But what my argument was that today is unnecessary. So it's unnecessary because we have so much stuff around that we just push trades for just like spinning things around. And this situation is the coronavirus proves it quite well. You know, you can stay at fucking home. You know, no one needs you at a fucking office. You know, you don't do anything more than just spin some stuff around that is already there. That's my point here. I'm not even saying that trade was ever a bad thing or a good thing. It is what it is. It was what it was. But now, whenever you see people still training shit, you will see bad things emerging.
Yeah,
I think it's not necessary.
yeah. Now, my thought with this prehistoric thing, I completely get what you're trying to say, and I completely understand the trade concept. But my thought is that there are many things to learn. And for example, if one has a community of 100 people that are self-sufficient, like hunter-gatherers were, where people know each other, you know, because there's a small group of people, and you can produce enough resources there to make sure that everybody has enough food, everybody is comfortable in a high-tech situation. Whether it's 100 or 100,000 doesn't matter. But that would be fantastic. But it seems like it is tricky to contain trade the larger the population becomes. You know, I don't know.
I think it's going
quite
well evolutionally. So before we had we were hunter gatherers, and then we came to agriculture and to trade eventually, and that trade pushed us to today's technologies and all comfort of life. And now, right now, we're maybe on the edge, or in the near future, on the edge to change this trade system to something better. So maybe it's just a natural process. We just need more time. Mm-hmm. Because right now, these ideas, they're quite new. Maybe there were some thinkers 100 years ago who said, you know, monetary system doesn't work, but more or less it's quite new.
It's also a different kind of society today, where with digitization, with decentralization, with all of these things, you can much easily, with the technology that we have, automation and so forth, provide for a lot of people, for billions of people. Like a handful of people can provide for a lots of other people. You know, that's also our huge advantage here. You know,
yeah, that would basically eliminated scarcity.
Absolutely. For me, I'm just trying to justify why people nowadays don't give a fuck, the majority, and stuff like that. And that is because we are so many people that they're not affected by it. They don't give a fuck about people from Africa. They don't give a fuck about people that are homeless because it doesn't concern them. They only give a fuck about their friends. Like even myself, it's difficult to care your immediate environment, to care about other people. So
and those who care,
I don't know.
But those who care, why do you think they care? The ones who care, why do you think they care? What makes them care?
Maybe because they're lucky enough to be in a situation where they can care, number one, and they're anyway, you know, that's one situation, I would say, and because they think we're a global species and they're enlightened and they've gotten certain information that thinks we're
and changing their mindset.
Definitely.
I think it's also related to your previous experience in life, and the more shit you've been through, the more you start to care about other people.
You talk about afterlife?
No.
The previous life.
Reincarnations. Your previous reincarnation. No, your background.
I mean, that is education.
Yeah, maybe education.
Your experience, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Why do you care, Cody? You are there in Canada, you know, even the virus is like, these Canadians, it's just nice people. I'm not going to infect them. You know. Why do you care, man?
Jeez. I mean, I'm trying to reduce. Like, I know what suffering feels like, I guess, and so I try to reduce that in who I believe these empathetic other beings with mirror neurons like me feel these things too. So if I can move in a direction that's not enhancing discomfort and is moving towards comfort, and I can do that for other people, And I want to do that for other people because I know about the discomfort. I don't know. That's where I'm coming from. It's just like fucking, we're all in this together, guys. Come on.
Nice.
I think that's what happened with most people who are caring about others. They've been to some tough situations and something in life. Like for me, it was inequality. I've seen it somehow a lot, and it's touched me, like in one or another way. And through that, you start to educate yourself and care about other people. On the other hand, I see the not trend, I don't know how to say it correctly, but those people who live a very comfortable life without problems in a perfect kind of environment, they tend to less care about what's happening with the world and other people and everything. So that's also interesting way to think.
Yeah. But I also think that many people in discomfort and that are living fucked up lives and that have been in war and in poverty and stuff like that don't have are not in any space to help other people because they're barely hanging on themselves. And although they would like to, I think it's really tricky to have the headspace and yeah, and in some ways it's an honor to help other people and to be able to do so, because if you're a doctor in other places and a part of Doctors Without Borders, or a part of the open source community or something like that, that's a fantastic place to be in because you're participating and you're doing things trade free because your own needs are taken care of to some extent.
Yeah, I've seen some footage now with this coronavirus outbreak. People like applauding doctors. They're like, oh, they are the heroes. Look at they their lives at risk. So it's kind of encouraging to see. Maybe trying people changing a bit their through experience and through education to see like, okay, these people are important. Maybe inspire others to become doctors and so forth. These kinds of things.
I think at the end, it's also got to education quite a lot. As you, Seb, noticed, there are many people who are in a quite bad situation, but they don't give a fuck about anything, about their survival. And like if you, I don't know, I've just seen some footage and some guys who work as slaves, basically. They're all like kind of slaves. And if interviewer asked them, what do you want? They just said, oh, I want people work for me. They don't want equal system. They don't want to be free. They just want to be on this fucked up system on top of it, not
yeah.
It was this interesting website. I saw a TED talk with a woman going to everywhere around the world, photographing people's houses and their lives from all kinds of working conditions of work, medium class, upper class, and so on. And at one point, he asked everyone, what would you change? What would you need to change your life? And it's interesting to see there, some people are I need a cow. It was the guy who's that's what I will need, a cow. Because then I'll make some milk and then I can sustain my family. He wouldn't what the fuck? Don't you want a house or fucking $1 million or something? So it's all about that narrow kind of environment. But I was thinking now, imagine someone comes from another planet to this planet, and you say, okay, I have a deal for you. You stay here, but you work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, till you are around 65, okay, all of your life. And then you can stay here. And then he's like, what's the deal then? Okay, what do I have in return? He's like, well, you have access to suites and then some, I don't know, roller coaster shit and then stuff, basically. How many will accept that kind of deal? Okay, go to this planet, work all of your life, and then have access to just a few stuff. But because people are so used to it, that's why they don't complain. Everyone should fucking complain about this thing alone. I shouldn't work all of my fucking life, to live here. So that should be enough to trigger people, but it's not enough, of course. That's the paradox here. That we try to kind of break.
Depends on from which planet those guys came.
Is
there way better.
5G planet.
It's parallel universe.
It sounds like a really bad deal. But okay, anyways, to go back a bit to because we got a bit sidetracked. What do you think? How do you think we could have deal with pandemic situation in a saner society where people don't have to trade all of their fucking lives to have a job? How would you see that?
And for what we would be you mean how would this look in a saner society?
Yeah, how would that look?
I mean, I would say for one, you would have a lot more. You would be a lot more prepared in terms of medical equipment and people that are, readily available to help more doctors with more time, rather than using our resources for bullshit products of all kinds, and using people's own energy on all kinds of useless jobs. People can be a lot better trained, more prepared, more hospitals, more beds, more everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. And because people don't have to go to work, they actually could, during this pandemic time, could dedicate their time to solving the problem. Just to go volunteer and do something else.
Even now in Korea, like they were having some people that had whatever jobs, they stopped doing their jobs and volunteered to help people, direct people to the drive-through like places where they were getting tested and stuff like that. So if they didn't have to have these like bullshit jobs, they would have a lot more free time. So for one, they would be able to help better to help slow the situation. Second, I mean, the situation probably wouldn't get out of hand so fast because they wouldn't be, trading shit around the world so much so fast and going all over the world like crazy.
I would say more cooperation globally as well. Yeah, I saw this Lee Camp thing. You guys know Lee Camp?
Yeah.
The guy comedian?
Yeah.
Yeah, redacted tonight. Anyway, so I was watching this thing, and he just made this point that because it was this press release or whatever, like where there were these these scientists from around the world and stuff, and they were really just underscoring so much that what we need to do in this situation is to, like, for all of our medical expertise around the world to get together to find a vaccine, to find like how to solve the problem. And he just made this point that it's funny how everybody is all the time saying competition is the best way, but once we have a crazy crisis, then obviously the answer is cooperation, And that I just thought was an interesting thing.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
But they still have competition, right? Who gonna invent?
Yeah, well,
who gonna invent?
yeah. I think theory and practice are two different things.
Yeah, but it's an amazing point.
Yeah.
You also wouldn't have this crazy like shortage of equipment and these patents on things. Like, this is our patent, so if you try to 3D print it, we'll sue you for that. That's crazy.
And open sourcing, not only the equipment, but also the research and so forth. So other people can help out, the experts from all around. That would be very different scenario, I would say.
You'll find a cure much faster, make a vaccine, whatever.
Yeah, maybe also people won't travel as much in terms of like this tourism industry that is a bit crazy. Maybe they be like, okay, it's really nice. Even in China, they have like great fucking like landscape there and so forth. But yeah, Europe, have you heard of Europe and Italy? Rome, pizza, They will go. Tourism agencies are really keen to sell, So maybe that will also happen less or in a more careful, prudent, like more like smart way. Not today is like they're afraid of like, terrorists when you travel with the plane. What about viruses? How the fuck that got through? Because
it's a bit more dangerous than terrorists, probably.
Oh, it's a lot more dangerous than fucking terrorism. Terrorism, if you look around, is like very little deaths from terrorism. But viruses, a lot more. Yeah. Open sourcing and so forth. Yeah, even like thinking about because you need also today with powerful computers to like unravel, like test all kinds of possibilities. There's like vaccine and so forth scenarios, instead of using those supercomputers to like fucking advertising machines like Google and others. Use them for a fucking good purpose. Okay, but they analyze like what's the best post on Instagram to get
you can use technology to connect people globally, and if some pandemic, some outbreak did come through, you can keep track. You can keep track of everybody that had it, kind of like what China and South Korea are doing. but in a less draconian way maybe than China. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's good. I don't know. But at least so that everybody is connected and everybody has the information of who goes where and how to prevent yourself. People will be more educated about the topic and what they should be doing, what they can be doing.
And not being bombarded by this kind of crazy Marvel like world and superheroes and like music and fashion and shit like that. Many people also like find these things more interesting and be like, oh, let's solve this problem because this is a monster here in this world. Let's solve it. Let's be the ones who like do something about it. But because they're so bombarded.
Yeah, and maybe there would be less like crazy gatherings, like religious gatherings.
Yeah.
For example, what spread the virus in Malaysia, I think in Korea.
South Korea, yeah.
Because it spread through some like big religious gathering, in churches and shit, where people go and kiss like whatever the fuck thing,
Oh my gosh! I think the coronavirus has added another level of absurdity and bizarreness to the human experience on this planet. I mean, it's interesting.
But isn't holy water? It doesn't work.
That's what they did in South Korea.
Toxic water.
It was a funny thing in South Korea because they come from a church kind of like religion that if you are sick, it's a sin. You don't have to say. So these motherfuckers didn't say that they are sick or something. And they went to the church and to cure them, they were spraying holy water in their mouths or something. And they infected around 40 other people. That's documented, infected 40 other people. And like, what the fuck, let those motherfucking die, people die, I don't think we need them.
Entirely based on science.
Yeah.
I think even in Romania, I've heard this, I'm not sure exactly, but they made a special day to pray for the coronavirus thing. Just, and I saw this photo on Reddit, I think, with the government in US, being in the White House, holding hands and with heads like that, and praying for the coronavirus. Okay, amen for that, my brother.
I think if I had to pick, I'd pick a hunter-gatherer tribe over this society.
You might convince us. I don't know, Seb. I like the
No, I'm telling you. I've been going on a bit of a detour, looking into all this type of stuff because there have been also so many occurrences in books about how people from Western society have moved to like tribes like Native Indians and shit like that, and they didn't want to come back. They just wanted to stay there because their sense of community and tribalism and togetherness was very different than in Western society.
Oh, I'm sure, because look at this society. Like this society is like
absolutely.
Wasn't that a thing in like Italy or somewhere because they're locked down? People are like, oh, now we're no in China, right? They're like, oh, now we invite the neighbors. Yeah, we never saw our neighbors. We invite them for dinner because now we're in the same building.
Right.
Yeah.
They discovered friendship and relationships. Oh.
Shit, I didn't know that fucking existed.
Wow.
That was good.
Absolutely.
So funny.
No, it's I'm reading this book right now about an anthropologist who lived with the Pinaha, which is a tribe in Brazil, a hunter-gatherer tribe in Brazil. Very interesting, actually, because in this book, he talks about, he's a linguist and he talks about language. And I was thinking a lot about your book because
I wrote about him.
You wrote about him, yeah.
Yeah, he was an example with the.
Yeah, it's the same exact message that the context matters in regards to language. It's not about any type of grammar or anything. It's about the context, and you will not be able to communicate with the Pinaha if you have not seen how they live.
Exactly.
Because you will not understand their values or anything in that regard. And it's just so interesting that anthropologists who lived there with them for like 40 years called them the peaceful tribe, and they still just live off hunter-gathering, and they're chilling, most of the time. They barely work. They have a community type thing. They just hunt and fish, and they still live pretty long.
Between, like, if I would choose between that life and staying in Madrid or New York and having a
absolutely,
I'll fucking go there.
Absolutely.
For me,
I think they brought them TVs though. I think in the end of the documentary, they were like kind of got in there and brought some education to the tribe and some television.
Make them sit in front of a TV.
Yes, because usually religious people go to such
Yeah, they
that's
tried
the
it, and
thing.
then that tribe like kicked them out or something, right? Or
Yeah.
they converted the religious people that came to them or something.
Wow.
Wasn't it actually that anthropologist was religious at
Yeah,
first?
At first, yeah.
yeah, he at
converted
first,
them.
yeah, at first. David Everett, yeah.
Was another dude who was like religious and he wanted to go and convert another tribe, and then he got like an arrow from his
Right.
to there, and
Yep.
then he came back from in the other life, because he was like,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm here to bring the word of God, and those ones like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. And it's gone.
Don't communicate like that with people.
I saw a video documentary type thing where they brought like a TV to an Amazonian tribe, I think, and showed different clips of like what they thought represented our world, like men on the moon and like how we treat our elderly and stuff, and it was really funny to see the clash like that. Like
Sure.
they just also because they don't understand the context, they didn't really understand the context. And like,
Yeah,
is that
right.
the moon? What is
Or
going
the
on?
moon, that thing?
Yeah.
No.
And it was cool because they were looking at like our music and stuff, and they were like, we don't understand the language, but it still touches us somehow. And it was funny to see the reactions. Also with elderly people, they were like, we would never treat our elderly like that. Just like, never be in contact with them and stuff. Just drop them in some
Right.
place.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
it
yeah,
was
for example,
funny.
here, like we have a neighbor. This woman is in her 60s, 70s, but I think with the coronavirus now, nothing changed for her. She doesn't go out. Like she never. We stay here for almost a year. She was never go out, and because she has like disabilities, whatever. But I'm like, wow, she's alone. It's completely alone, which is quite sad to see.
Yeah.
People in this world.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My parents were also talking about my grandma, and they were like, we're not visiting grandma at all right now, and like, because this and that, and I just thought to
But maybe
myself,
that's
like,
better with the
well, maybe
virus.
that's how it's always kind of is.
Because they don't have value in the society. So if you see the old people, they don't produce much.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah,
Neither
they're
young nor dumb.
useless. So yeah.
If your grandma made popular YouTube videos, it'd be a different
Oh,
story.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a secret, what's it called?
Flagger.
Influencer.
Yeah.
Maybe we could get on her show or something.
Talk about this trade thing.
Hmm.
To all the grannies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So let's just maybe we can wrap this up.
I'm
Nice.
hungry.
I mean, okay. Good. I'm glad.
So I'll personally say that if you want to like stay updated with these things, like you can also use the Trom created news, tromsite.com/tools. If you can use that, and also videos, lots of informative videos. Kurzgesagt released one, very very good one recently. To understand more what is happening, because of course whatever we say here is like the situation is still a situation. Like, people will die and still dying, and of course it's an extremely sad situation and could be concerning in certain areas of the world. So let's hope that we can fucking manage it properly, because although I'm such a like sometimes I have this itch in me like I cannot wait for an apocalypse, I have a laugh like, I
Really?
cannot wait for
I
the
didn't
fucking
know.
thing. Yeah, I'm like I went today for a short walk to a store because you cannot quite go anywhere. I'm like I wish it's going to be like before. I want to go for a while. I want to be like see people not suffering or whatever. It's not good. It's not nice. It's not nice. Okay, so I would say the best way for you to prevent is like try to not have too many connections to other people and wash your fucking hands. I think Karsgazak said it very nicely. He said, "Wash your hands as if you're chopping like a pepper, like red
Chili
pepper,
peppers.
chili peppers, and then you want to put your
Finger in your eye.
no,
Oh, your
no,
contact.
your contact lenses after work. So
Sure.
you just wash it very well, like wash it like really well, and to try to like, because that's the best way to prevent it right now actually, because this virus have a coating of fat, and soap dissolves that. So it's the best way to prevent it. And don't touch your face like this, like I do every time, you know.
Ah.
I cannot contain myself. And like that.
Did
You cannot do
Cody?
anything more, anyways. Yeah. So let's see how this goes. You know, I think Spain is going to be the next Italy in terms of like impact. So it's going to be for a few weeks from now on. It's going to be like a bit like, sad and like, depressing, but things will go into normal. You'll see, back to
Good
normal.
luck,
And
guys.
Best of luck. Yeah.
Come to Spain. We have fun
we,
here.
we, we got
I was
we got
trying
to
to.
market.
Yeah, you got out on time.
well,
Yeah.
okay, don't celebrate too early. You
Who do you think planted it?
hold on.
Wait, what?
Don't celebrate. Hold on. You don't know. Yeah, there are some like Alexia sent a link. Is like you can also help with if you put computers power to like people like sequencing whatever the RNA or whatever the virus. You can configure
The
that
protein folding kind of thing.
protein folding kind of thing. Yeah, I mean look into these kind of things if you can help with such things.
The horsepower.
Yeah, but you cannot do much anyways. Just wash your hands. Don't talk to your parents. You know.
Don't feel so bad about being in quarantine. You know, I mean, the point is to not overwhelm hospitals, basically.
Yeah. I know some people are like pissed off. I was also pissed off. Maybe I still am a bit like fuck off. I want to go out. This is nice weather here. I see the beach here and everything. Like, I want to go there. But I also don't want to be the jackass who's like, I don't fucking care, you know, fuck off, you know. Because I can like let's these people deal with the fucking thing. I saw a really sad documentary from Italy, how they deal with the patients and so forth. It's quite sad. See those people being fucked up, the doctors being fucked up, doctors dying and so forth. It's a nasty situation, you know. So, you know.
Yeah, and since it's rising exponentially, you don't know what's going to happen in your area. Just because it doesn't look bad now doesn't mean it won't end up like Italy.
Right.
You know? Hopefully it won't.
Yeah, thanks, Sasha.
I don't know.
So let's see.
How long do you guys think this is going to drag on for?
Months.
It's hard to
Probably.
tell.
Half a year?
October.
It could be a long time. It could be-
Quarantine half a year?
I mean,
Oh,
see
I mean-
Italy extending till like April 13 or something.
Oh
The
my
quarantine.
God.
Italy extended till April 3rd, I think.
Third, yeah.
I think.
April
But they
3rd.
could extend it longer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure
But this
Spain will
rate
do the
is
same.
Still going up like this, so at that rate, they'll probably extend the quarantine.
Yeah. So
Probably
stay-
until it gets like to a cap or under control some way.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
everybody gets the virus, and then okay,
Oh.
it'll come back down.
Yeah. We'll see.
At least it's not super deadly, except for old and sick people. So.
Well, it doesn't sound that big good for
Yeah.
well, stay. Well, you have to really think the fact that we have most people recover, so you really have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Don't get too paranoid. Most people recover, even old people. Even if you're in your 90s, likely you recover unless you have some problems.
Right.
But that's the thing, that's what you don't see in media. You don't see that much the statistic that actually it's only old people dying, and you don't really see this from the angle that actually most of the people who get the virus, they're fine.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and
Maybe
that's
that's
you should
creates
get your
panic.
news from Trom-curated news.
It's the same there. I
Actually,
just
same.
been there. It's like the same.
Yeah.
When Dima
That
says
doesn't work.
it's the same, I think don't confuse all kinds of media, because what those people report exactly what the cases are, and it could be also that you want to make people aware to maybe you want to freak people out a bit to make sure that I understand. Imagine if you say, okay, you don't worry, most people are fine, and then nobody maybe will react to this. Be like, oh, whatever the fuck, I'm young, I don't care. But then people really want to transmit the message that even if you are young, you're carrying the virus, so you are doing bad anyways. It's not like if you don't get sick and die from it, it's not a reason for you to get a bit freaked out, because you can transmit that further.
No,
so I have parents, I will not want I don't care about me, let's say. I'm look at me, I'm so strong and I'm fit.
Very
but
nice.
I care about my parents. But I care about my parents. I don't want for my parents to get sick because they will to get dragged into hospitals and so forth. So actually, we have some news that is showcasing exactly that from PBS, saying that you shouldn't panic. There are most people are healthy, and they showcase people who are healthy. Like look, even in their 90s, it's like patients in their 90s who recover and so forth. So yeah.
But that's the thing. The news should inform you, not to get your attention and shock. And that's the point.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got all the problems.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see as well how today's value system is, because I put on the TV shortly just to see what's going on, like from
Oh,
from
that
their
made me
perspective.
angry.
And then there was a woman speaking like, oh, many people are also thinking about what we should do with the homeless now that this virus is out and about.
What
Yeah.
And, it's like, I was like, oh
Because
my
the
gosh,
homeless are
like,
gonna
come
be
on,
fascinated.
like as if you gave a fuck about the homeless before, like now what are you gonna do? And I hope many people will as well use this energy for, I don't know, to look at other issues beside this issue when it passes over that are also global and important.
Now the homeless people now here will get fines because they're not staying at home.
Right. Yeah.
Easy as that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Where are they supposed to go?
And then they're gonna put them in jail, and then like with the virus,
Oh,
they'll
wow.
go to jail.
Yeah.
Who cares about those who are in jail? It's fine.
Yeah, there's just a couple.
But the funny thing is that those in jail probably are more protected now than the other one.
Oh, who knows? Who knows?
It's a closed environment,
Well, it depends. Like I read that
It might be very close. So like,
I haven't heard of any like outbreak in any.
I have today in Israel.
I think you won't hear in many countries about what's happening in jails.
Sure, right. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Another positive turn.
Yeah, positivity.
Let's see. Maybe we'll make one the next week, and maybe the situation will be even worse, and we'll make another one about this, and be like, okay, guys, that's the last one.
Yeah,
that
right.
the virus mutated, and now it's killing everybody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that can also be a thing. It could, in theory. It happened with the influenza, right? The Spanish flu imitated a bit. Let's see. Maybe this is the end of the world. Finally, 2020. I knew it.
Hey.
It's the best year for like. Okay, I don't think we'll go to any news or anything. It's just like
Sure.
in the description we have some news. We went through
Lots
them
of it.
basically. One way or
Let's
another.
just end it with the end of the world. That's like, yeah,
That's good. So
positive.
it's fourth on.
So
Yeah.
I'm on Trump-created news. What I see: German Chancellor Angela Merkel, coronavirus, Germany's biggest challenge since World War II.
Wow.
Isn't it like not the really good way how to present information? Like imagine World War II is like one of the terrible things which happens to human history, and then
Oh my gosh.
the Angela Merkel, the leader of the nation, tells this.
So you're saying that we also have clickbait, yeah?
Yeah, sorry to you.
People died.
No.
Well, what if you are underreacting them? Maybe it's bad, Maybe it's really bad, and you say
Maybe, but why you put in such wording? It's the same like make a stupid thumbnail on YouTube, just to grab your attention.
Said,
Yeah, but that's what she said for a reason. For such persons, they've got other people like their marketing specialists who do the speeches for them, and they just read it. So
yeah, because maybe they want for people to like understand, to not be like, oh, I'm German, let's like go drink some beer.
Like to understand that it's like, wow, terrible. I have to run. I have to run and buy all the toilet paper in my shop. That's how it works.
That's how they react, What can you do? That's how people react. And that's another thing, because people are like, I know this argument. I had maybe the same, like, oh, people are buying all the toilet paper. Oh my God. But you don't understand that those people are also for one misinformed. They don't know exactly. Like, I'm here in Spain. I don't understand Spanish much. I don't know what's the news here. I don't know. Maybe they close completely from tomorrow. I have no idea. Second, those people are working. Many of those people are working, and then they finish jobs at 7 or so. They don't know if it's open or not. Probably they have kids to take care of or older people. So in a way, I'm like trying to understand them a little bit. Maybe who knows in this society? Don't know much. So it's easy to laugh and people are buying toilet paper, make memes. Oh my God, it's so funny. But yeah, to try to be a bit more balanced. Maybe people are also freaked out here because you don't fucking know. Stores may be closing. Maybe it's getting worse and worse. You are very misinformed in this society. You don't know exactly.
But that's the thing, and you get misinformed by such statements. I think you just got a bit protective of Trump-created news, but
That's acceptable.
You still have to go there if you want to to read some good news. I know Dima doesn't like media. Anything that is like, oh, it's bad, is like, oh, that's exaggerated. They're like wanting to sell ads and so forth.
You said you're super overprotecting.
So
come on, it's a clickbait name given by the Chancellor of Germany. So.
Well, you don't. Why?
Just listen to it.
Well, I listened to it. Why? Do you think is not correct?
I think it's not correct. I think the situation is just put in such highlights to kind of stress people, get their attention. That's it.
But that's the thing. How do you know? How do you know what's the situation in Germany? Maybe it's really bad. Like it will exponentially become even worse. Like how do you know?
The Second World War killed 50 million people. Right now, how many?
From there on, not like it's worse than World War II. I don't think that's what they say.
Yeah, but why to use this World War II? Why would you use it explaining coronavirus? Like what associations you have as a human? That is like something. Wow, we're fact.
And maybe if it works, then that's good. And if it's also true, then it's also okay.
But that's exactly where you get misinformation and stress out of.
But I think you confuse things. You confuse misinformation with maybe like this kind of titles that you think, oh, it's so exaggerated. Where is the misinformation there, for example?
It's not that bad as World War II. And why to use World War II? You can tell
it wrongly though.
Wording.
But you read it wrongly. No one said it's as bad as World War II. It said is the biggest challenge since World War II. No, that's different.
Why people use this marketing? It's the same like to use Coca-Cola or Fanta. What is better?
You can say the same if people say, it's worse. You know what World Health Organization said? That is the last pandemic that we experienced was the influenza, the Spanish flu. Is that an exaggeration or is just
no?
fact?
But they didn't tell. It's like almost the same as the Spanish flu. It's worse. Worse as the Spanish flu. It's like almost the same as the Spanish flu. They said it in different wording.
Since Spanish flu, this is our biggest challenge in terms of pandemics. That's what they say, right? So that's what it is, right? I think differentiate between misinformation and maybe this kind of. I understand that it sounds really fucked up, but let's see, is that true or not? Is the biggest challenge in Germany since World War II? Maybe it is. Maybe they had a really great life, since then. Maybe it is.
Yeah, have you seen footage of Germany after World War
II? I think many people are saying a lot of different things, and we don't know because it's happening in the future. There's some people saying that this virus won't have any effect much, and they're only going to be a couple tens of thousands of people that will die, and you have other people who say that there will be millions of people who are going to die. But it's very difficult to predict. And of course, the media is a lot of them are exaggerating, not exaggerating, but they're making predictions that are certainly scaring people. Many people are panicking because of it. Is that panic justifiable? Who knows? We will see in the next year whether there will be 50 million people that will die, or 100 million, or a million. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it can be useful to overestimate rather than underestimate, and better say that, okay, this shit could be super dangerous, rather than saying, it's probably nothing, because then it might spread even more. But I don't know, who knows? Maybe making people panic will cause a bigger issue than making sure people just stay a little chill and everything.
Right.
Time will
I agree with
tell.
that.
We don't know.
Time will tell. Yeah.
But that's the thing that they don't know. And nobody really knows what's gonna happen. So.
But they will always be biased to do sensational headlines. That's with
Yeah,
everything.
of course. Yeah, that's what I'm pointing out. Exactly.
For sure, and that's how it is. But specifically, what is the one thing and what is not, we don't know, and we will only see.
I think they made the World War II reference, or she made the World War II reference in order to get the attention of these people who are over 80 years old. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because they still experienced World War II. You know what I mean?
But imagine how their heart beat right now when they.
Yeah, right.
Half of them already dead.
Yeah. But she was probably, how can we get the attention of these old people? Maybe let's make an old reference.
Anyway, who knows?
An idea.
Yeah, I think in such situations, maybe it's good to like be more direct and harsh with people and like, look, it's bad if you think that's going to help, because else you also downplay it. And I'm not talking about the whatever people see on Facebook mostly, and like it's like complete misinformation, you know. So I don't see these things that bad. Like I don't see if people wants to like tell the world that, hey, look, it's really bad, you know, it's something we have to deal with, because it's hard to tell. You see, when we told you about this kind of like exponential so-called growth, you may make a mistake and be like, I don't think it's that bad. Like in maybe in some countries just 100 and so cases and so forth, but then it grows so fast that you have to, in time, to make people aware that it could be extremely bad. So you have to do something about it. In that regard, like, I don't see that. I see that as a good thing.
I don't think if you're president of a country, you have to be more careful of what you're, speaking.
Tell it to
No
Trump.
one knows.
It's a China virus.
Yeah. Whatever pops into the head comes out of the mouth.
Whatever pops out of the ass.
You're that too.
It's like not again.
This tastes awesome.
Okay, it's been like
Kyo,
2.5 hours.
Yeah, did we cure the viewers? Did we do the thing? Is this a success?
Yeah, it's a success. It's a success. That's it.
Nobody was here next week because coronavirus.
Yeah, I just hope that people don't just downplay, because I used to, when I got to hear about this news, I used to be a bit like more like whatever, whatever the fuck, But now, living here and then thinking that, okay, you see there are lots of people dying every day, especially here, even around, there are many people who die, and it's not that nice, So it's just, it's better if you. That's what they say all the time. When it's a pandemic and people want to like scare people before the pandemic starts, and then the scare works, and then the pandemic is like slower and not that impactful. People are like, you exaggerated. When you do it afterwards, they say, oh, why don't you did it like before,
Right.
So it's always a tricky thing here. I would rather see people exaggerating maybe, or putting it in these terms of like, okay, it's the worst since World War II, whatever the fuck. Then, and maybe make people aware and make people get the message across, then not to do it. I would rather see that. Of course, we shouldn't conflict it with misinformation. If that's misinformation, it's information.
Yeah.
It's hard to see prevention. Go ahead, Seb.
No, go ahead.
I was saying it's hard to see or measure preventative effects because you didn't see the parallel universe where the shit fucking wiped out the human race. You just saw flatten the curve kind of thing, right?
Yeah, you can see with different kind of tribes. Somewhat did something, some did something else.
Yeah, that's how. That's kind of how we can do a micro measure. But yeah, for a global.
The fact that South Korea had 12,000 intensive care units, and Italy had only 4,000. Imagine that.
Right.
So they could really cope with the situation a lot better.
And the population is about the same, right?
About the same, yeah. The population is about the same. So you have two sample sizes. That's quite the same. You can look what worked and what didn't work. But yeah, I'm curious what's going to happen here too. Like, how long are they going to keep doing this? And in Italy and so forth. In Europe, it's funny that in Europe it's like the center of epidemic. It started in China, but now it's in fucking Europe. And let's see, because it can be America next. It will be the center of fuckery. We don't know.
Yeah.
So Cody, like, you have to go underneath that blanket and
Oh man.
don't let that bite you, huh?
Oh yeah.
Enjoy your
Okay.
freedom when you have it.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I'm going out. You know, I'm gonna go get some sun. You know, cook that
Toilet
coronavirus
paper.
right now. Yeah. I mean, anything goes. We're still good. We're still good.
Yeah. Maybe one last point for me, and that's just I completely agree that it's very important for people to know about this issue, and it's better to be safe than sorry. But I also completely understand how, also for myself, it can be very disturbing to see how the media focuses on a story like this, while there are many other issues that are not being addressed, even to the slight extent as many media platforms, at least TV platforms, do nowadays. But what do you expect? That's the way our society is, and people are anyway not necessarily talking about the consequences this will have for those that will be worse. Most affected, like who can't be able to put food on the table now, or whatever on those lines. But that's nothing new, really.
Some people focus in the same way on other problems, like they focus on this one. I wouldn't even mind if they would make clickbait articles or exaggerate some shit. If they will talk about trade as a solution, if Angela Merkel will go and say, look, trade is as bad as the World War II was, I will be extremely happy, and I will be like, okay, I don't care, maybe she's right or not, but if I want to get the message out, I think that's a good way.
You think that's an exaggeration, though?
What?
Trade created the war, right? So
Yeah, but well, just to attract the attention, if that works for the message, then I'm happy.
for sure.
Whatever sells.
Okay.
Okay, people of Earth who are young and not affected.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe see you next week. We'll see.
Maybe.
If we are not
a
dead,
gamble.
everybody is not in quarantine.
If Corona hasn't mutated to kill young people. as well.
Young people, imagine that. Oh, that would be nice.
Oh wow.
We're not that young, so maybe just super
That's
young
true.
people.
Yeah. Right. They'll,
I think over 30 would be okay for me.
Oh, really? Would it, Seb? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Was that directed at?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's old people, maybe. Nah.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Hopefully, same TROM-Cast, same TROM time next week. We'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, Mike.
All right.
See you guys.
I guess.